Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Naruto. Unlimited enhancement every 60 days. Chapter 21. Cut. Frequent displacement, in order to create an attack gap. When Gaara's eyes could no longer capture Ryuya's movement, Ryuya made a decisive move. Withdraw the sword and strengthen the plus 86,400, crescent-shaped sword energy with a diameter of 3 meters, tearing the air from all directions, whizzing straight to Gaara. Gaara's eyes widened in horror as he sensed that several sword auras came almost indiscriminately. Boom! The next moment, the competition venue instantly collapsed and turned into a sea of sand. At the same time, countless sands flew up, forming a barrier to block the sword chi's slash. Shit! Laugh! But unfortunately, under the sharp sword aura, these thick sand walls, like fragile thin paper, were cut to pieces in an instant. At the same time, the sword spirit remained inexhaustible, still slashing towards Gaara in the middle. Gaara. Seeing this scene, Temari and Kankuro in the stands couldn't help shouting worriedly. Gaara, who is regarded as a monster, is their own brother after all. When you see him in danger, as a sister or brother, how can you not worry about it? Boom! The next moment, the sword chi arrived almost at the same time, meeting and colliding in the center, making a loud roar, and at the same time aroused countless sand, gravel and dust. Quote. For a while, everyone's expressions froze, and they stared at the court unblinkingly. Such a strong and fierce attack, surely it is not a battle between Jonin, but a Chunin exam. At the same time, everyone eagerly wanted to know whether the attack just now killed Gaara. The heavy gravel fell quickly, and when the scene on the court was clearly seen, everyone exclaimed again. I saw a piece of sand floating in the air, like a cloud, and Gaara, half kneeling on the piece of sand. At the moment the slash arrived, Gaara, who was unable to resist, lifted herself into the air with sand, which could withstand this dangerous wave of attacks. As expected of Gaara, looking at Gaara in midair, even Ryuya couldn't help but exclaim. At this time, Gaara's evaluation of Ryuya was so simple. Rustle, sand. The next moment, Gaara slowly fell back to the ground, and at the same time, countless sands gathered towards him, wrapping him layer by layer. When Gaara fell to the ground again, he was completely wrapped in sand, forming a huge ball of sand. Everyone was stunned again. Gaara, known as the sand waterfall, actually hid. Unable to resist Ryuya's slash, Gaara, who lacks a sense of security, chose to protect herself in this way. Of course, he is not simply hiding. In the sand ball, he can still manipulate the sand to attack. Under absolute defense, he thought he was invincible. Cut. Regarding this, Ryuya didn't have any nonsense and slashed it over. Shit. Jian-chi cut into the sand ball more than 10 centimeters, but eventually collapsed. These are not ordinary sands, but Gaara uses chakra to soak them day and night, which is extremely hard. If you can't cut the sand ball, you can't hurt the Gaara inside. This is how to do. Seeing this, everyone on the scene, whether they are ordinary civilian audiences or ninjas, couldn't help but frown. This made Ryuya how to fight. In fact, Ryuya didn't give up after making a futile move. He held the handle of the knife again with his right hand, maintaining the ready position of drawing the knife, but this time he did not cut it directly, but with a solemn expression and a series of loud shouts. Everyone was dumbfounded for an instant, what Ryuya was going to do. If you can't cut Gaara, you will use your aura to frighten you. Under everyone's gaze, Ryuya kept in this position, screaming constantly in his mouth. But other than that, no one did anything else. Now, not only other people, but also third Hokage, who is known as Professor Ninja, are dumbfounded. Which one is this singing? He is familiar with all kinds of ninjutsu and there is no shortage of Sonic, but there is no such thing. It should be almost there. Until more than 10 minutes later, Ryuya thought. After accumulating power for so long, it should be possible to split this sand ball. Accumulation can increase the slashing power, but Ryuya has no idea how much to increase it and what proportion. Cut. All in all, cut his mother's knife first. The next moment, as Ryuya shouted, he cut out with a sword. Laugh. At the next moment, I saw a sword gas with a diameter of more than 10 meters, wrapped in a violent wind, plowing deeply across the ground, and swiping from Ryuya's blade in an instant. Boom! The next moment, a dozen meters of sword energy smashed the sand ball, and with a loud noise that pierced the ears, it split the sand ball directly into two. Quote. Seeing this scene, everyone on the scene, no matter civilians or ninjas, were all dumbfounded. Gaara's absolute defense was cut off abruptly. Ah! But at this moment, before everyone recovered, a hysterical roar suddenly came from the sand ball that was divided into two, as if full of anger and panic. It's Gaara. Gaara wasn't dead, maybe he was not in the center just now. What is that? At the same time, a few sharp-eyed spectators seemed to see a terrifying monster from the gap where the sand ball was cut. Have you completely become possessed? In the audience, Konkuro, who knew what was going on, appeared in horror. I don't know, he seems to be injured. This has never happened before. No one knows what will happen to him. Temari also has a dignified face, and has already prepared for the worst in his heart. He is so messy. As the team leader, Baki cursed in his heart that Gaara's loss of control might ruin this plan. At the same time, some ninjas who are good at perception, from the split sand ball, faintly felt a very disturbing chakra. What happened inside? For a while, everyone stared at the sand ball unblinkingly, their faces full of tension. Wow, until a moment later, the sand ball slowly collapsed, and Gaara's figure was revealed from inside. Obviously, Gaara was not in the middle of the sand ball, or he avoided it at the critical moment. So Ryuya's cut just now didn't cut him in half. But even so, he chopped Gaara and covered the shoulder with his hand, and the blood still kept flowing out. Success. Seeing the injured Gaara, Ryuya was relieved instantly, and he had already done everything he needed to do. Whether it can pull back the off-track plotline, then it can only be resigned to fate. A leaf suddenly fell on the field. Call. The next moment, a whirlwind was suddenly set off on the field, which was mixed with countless leaves. And when the wind cleared, two figures appeared. It was Kakashi and Sasuke. Sorry. Kakashi narrowed his eyes and said with a smile. We are late. Who is coming? Shiranui Genma smiled at the corner of Chinbin's mouth and asked cooperatively. Uchiha. Sasuke was expressionless and gave out his name coldly. Sasuke, it's Sasuke here. Seeing Sasuke finally appeared, the venue was thrilled. After all, before the start of the game, as the orphan of the Uchiha clan, he was the hottest and most anticipated character. Ah, what can I do? But then, everyone suddenly thought, what would happen if Sasuke came? Thinking back to Ryuya's battle just now, even the boy with Uchiha bloodline instantly became dull. Our way of appearance seems too gorgeous. Knowing that he still did this, it was obviously intentional. Kakashi smiled and said embarrassedly. But Sasuke, you should have been disqualified. Don't worry, Sasuke's game has been postponed. Haha, that's great. Kakashi laughed twice, but in fact, these were already in his expectation, otherwise they would not dare to be late anyway. But Sasuke's opponent, just as Kakashi was proud, Shiranui Genma added another sentence. Snatched by someone else. Kakashi, who was still proud just now, froze in an instant, and only then did he see the situation clearly on the court. Takagi Ryuyav's Gaara. It turns out that Sasuke's opponent was taken away by Ryuya. Starting from the extent of the destruction of the venue, the two sides may have fought a big battle. This is. Immediately afterwards, Kakashi saw Gaara who was injured out of control, and was shocked again. Could it be Ryuya who won? How is this possible? His opponent is Gaara. Even though Sasuke was given special training, he did not hesitate to be late for the game. In fact, Kakashi did not have full confidence that Sasuke could beat Gaara. But such a monster was defeated by Ryuya. About Ryuya, Kakashi has also heard about it. After all, he also brought this class of students, the tail of the crane alongside Naruto. Is the tail of the crane so full of accidents? Think about Naruto. Then look at Ryuya in front of him. Kakashi smiles helplessly and shook his head. Looking at Sasuke's side, although he did not speak, his sullen face was obviously extremely unhappy. He practiced hard for a month, just to defeat Gaara. But now, someone told him that his opponent had been snatched away. Most importantly, it was the chrysanthemum that exploded him, its crane tail that robbed his opponent. There were originally two crane tails in the class. He has recognized Naruto, but Ryuya, he will never forgive. Gone. At this moment, countless feathers suddenly appeared in the venue, scattered all over the auditorium. Among the fluttering feathers, the audience fell one by one, falling asleep. This is illusion. Konoha Jonin in the stands, Kakashi, Shiranui Genma and others off the court suddenly changed their expressions. Solution. Then immediately cast ninjutsu and bounce off the illusion. It started. When Ryuya saw this scene, his face sank, and he said silently in his heart. Pong. At this moment, what was shocking was that a cloud of smoke burst out on the summit stage, which also changed. The two guards next to Feng Ying suddenly attacked. Whoosh whoosh. Anbu, who was in charge of guarding, had been paying close attention to the scene and immediately launched an action. There are two groups of Anbu, one group rushes to the wind and shadow guards, and the other group protects the leaders of other countries. Shit. Laugh. A brief contact in midair slashed Feng Ying's two guards in midair. But what people did not expect was that the two who were beheaded turned into four. It turned out to be hiding in a pair of clothes through disguise. After the four showed up, they fell to the roof of the summit platform and stood at a corner. But now, when the smoke burst, Feng Ying hijacked Hokage, and he was already standing in the middle of the roof. 4 Zen formations. As the four people sealed the seal at the same time, a layer of enchantment rose up, trapping Hokage inside. An Anbu member who rushed up unexpectedly touched the barrier, and his body was immediately burned by the flames. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, Otonin lurking in Konoha had all appeared and began to attack the inside of the venue. Konoha Shinobi, who was an audience at the scene, also immediately launched a counterattack. Tread, tread, tread. At this time, Baki, Tamari, Konkuro, and 3 Sand Shinobi fell off the court and first protected Gaara. The action is aborted. Take Gaara away temporarily. After checking, it was determined that Gaara was out of control and unable to fight for the time being. Baki's face was gloomy and gave an order. Tamari and Konkuro nodded, and the two set up Gaara, jumped out of the meeting, and fled out of the village. But Baki stayed where he was, with a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Sorry, the exam is over. At this time, Shiranui Genma, the referee, said to Ryuya, and then rushed straight to Baki. Sasuke, who just appeared on the stage, couldn't help being annoyed when he encountered this sudden situation before he took the shot. Whoosh. In the next moment, regardless of all this, he jumped up and chased Gaara. Gaara is his opponent, he will never allow others to take it away. Genma blocked Baki and immediately joined the battle. Kakashi, withdrawing to deal with other Otonin. After saving little Sakura, confess her and wake up Naruto, together with his summoning ninja dog Parker, to chase Sasuke, the task is to bring Sasuke back. Bring this guy. At this moment, Ryuya suddenly appeared and dragged Shikamaru, who was still pretending to be asleep for fear of trouble. It is good. Kakashi glanced at Shikamaru and nodded. Great. Seeing Junior, Sakura, Naruto, Shikamaru, and Parker go after Sasuke, Ryuya secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The plot has been pulled back. If there are no accidents, they should be surprised. Third Hokage. Immediately afterwards, Ryuya looked at Third Hokage trapped in the enchantment, frowning again. If everything is like the original, in this battle, Third Hokage will die heroically. 4 Zen formations, a kind of enchantment ninjutsu, require 4 people to activate. From the upper and lower sides, the space is completely enclosed. The enchantment is not only strong, but also has purple flames. If people touch it, they will be burned to death immediately. Facing this kind of enchantment, generally only from the inside, defeat the operator to crack. But at this time, it was the 4th of the 5 people of Yunin who displayed the 4 purple flame formations, possessing a special physique. They cast a layer of enchantment from inside, making it difficult for the trapped Third Hokage to attack them. What's more, along with Third Hokage, there is Orochimaru disguised as Fenkage. Orochimaru, one of the legendary 3 ninjas, is also a disciple of Third Hokage. If it were more than 10 years ago, 3rd generation could defeat Orochimaru. But now, as his physical strength declines as he grows older, he may no longer be Orochimaru's opponent. Impure World Reincarnation. Moreover, Orochimaru has used the forbidden technique and has summoned 1st generation and 2nd Hokage to this world. In the next moment, under the control of Orochimaru, first generation and second generation began to pinch the third generation. We can only wait. Outside the barrier, looking at third Hokage in an extremely dangerous situation, the three Anbu members have nothing to do. They couldn't break through the barrier from the outside. All that can be expected now is that third Hokage opens the barrier inside, and they immediately give aid. 4 Zeon formations. At this time, in the chaotic venue, with the enhanced body replacement technique, Ryuya, who was attacking by Otonin and Sand Shinobi, flashed past. Seeing Zhang Qi's enchantment, he couldn't help thinking. Enhanced body replacement technique, even if it is strengthened 86,400 times, the essence is still body replacement technique. The so-called teleportation is just high-speed movement, not really shuttles through space. Therefore, if the body replacement technique is used, Ryuya cannot directly reach the inside of the barrier. Even if he is fast, he will still hit the barrier and be burned to death. However, he still has to slash and strengthen 86,400. With the potential to cut off the world, as long as the power time is enough, you can completely cut off this enchantment. So as to rescue third Hokage. No way. But in this way, the plot behind it is bound to change. And as Naruto, third generation's drama is far from comparable to that of Haifeng, and the plot is likely to change drastically. As a traverser, only in a familiar plot can you gain greater benefits. Ryuya played against Gaara and tried his best to hurt him in order to get back to the original plot line. Third Hokage has high prestige in the village, and as a fan of Naruto, Ryuya also likes this kind and tough old man. But now, he is in the dangerous world of ninja world, and he must put his interests first in everything, and he can't use emotions. Save. But after some more thoughts, Ryuya suddenly made a decision to save third Hokage. Whoosh. The next moment, a few jumps, and directly outside the barrier, the three Anbus approached. I can cut this barrier. No nonsense, go directly to the topic. But I need time. During the time I prepare, I can't be disturbed. You. The three Anbus couldn't help but startled, and then they couldn't help thinking of the knife Ryuya used to cut Gaara's sand ball. The spirit was shocked instantly. Without any hesitation, he said confidently. Leave your back rest assured to us, and ensure that a fly won't get in. Snapped. Without doubting Anbu, Ryuya took a slashing pose, holding the handle of the knife with his right hand, and then began to accumulate strength. Ah! Scatter. At the same time, the three Anbu exchanged their eyes and spread out immediately, forming a triangle, protecting Ryuya in the middle. What is he doing? In the venue, Kakashi, who was playing against many Otonin, saw this scene and couldn't help asking. Maybe we don't have to worry about third generation. Guy glanced at him, his face instantly surprised. When Ryuya played against Gaara, Kakashi was not there, but Guy could see clearly the whole process. Based on his experience, he has guessed that Ryuya increased the power of drawing a knife through constant so that he finally split Gaara's sand ball. Although he still can't figure it out, what is the connection between the power of ninjutsu and But then again, before Ryuya exploded Konan Chrysanthemum, the principle of the 1,000 years of death trick, Guy hasn't figured it out yet. Anyway, Guy, who has already called Ryuya the miracle boy, he thought that Ryuya might be able to break the barrier. Ryuya is still accumulating energy, and at this time, in the venue, as well as in Konoha village, and Naruto outside the village, they are all acting in their own way. Compared to the original work, Konoha is actually more prepared because Ryuya rescued Hayate and reported information in time. At the moment of the attack, someone was responsible and quickly moved the civilians and children to the shelter under Shadow Rock. At the same time, a large number of ninjas are responsible for various defenses. The Hyuga clan, Nara clan, Aburame clan, etc., numerous Konoha clan, a large number of elite ninjas, are responsible for counterattack. Facing the joint attack by Otonin and Sand Shinobi, although the scene was chaotic at this time, everything was still under control. Old man, you have to hold on. What's more, there is pervy sage Jiraiya, who is also one of the three ninjas in the village at this time. In the venue, Ryuya is still accumulating energy. Bang bang bang, and the three Anbu, as mentioned before, guarded him and did not let an enemy pass. Although Ryuya was not disturbed, the situation of third Hokage in the enchantment has become more and more dangerous. After all, third generation is getting older and not as strong as before. Isn't it okay? Seeing Ryuya, who was still accumulating energy, the three Anbu secretly worried. But he didn't dare to ask, for fear of disturbing Ryuya. It should be almost. Wait a little longer. As mentioned before, although charging can increase slashing power, Ryuya has no idea how much it can increase. In the unlikely event that he slashed out with this knife and failed to cut the enchantment, he might not have time to recharge. Instead of doing this, it's better to charge up for a while. If you don't make a move, you will be foolproof. Shadow Clone Technique. After a while, the battle in the enchantment had heated up, and third Hokage suddenly separated two shadow clones. Third generation is already physically weak. If it is divided into 3 parts, it will naturally be even more vulnerable. Seeing this scene, even the 3 Anbus were puzzled and worried. It's time. But Ryuya knew that third Hokage was going to use his own life to seal impure world reincarnation out of first generation, second Hokage and Orochimaru. Cut. At this time, he didn't take action, but when he waited, Ryuya yelled and the long sword came out of its sheath. Rescue third Hokage. It is very likely that the plot will be changed drastically, which will surpass Ryuya's control and lose the advantage of foresight. But just imagine, the arrival of Ryuya himself, and the gust of wind he saved, are not all changes to the plot. A butterfly in the tropical rainforest of the Amazon River basin in South America, occasionally flapping its wings, may cause a tornado in Texas in the United States 2 weeks later. The butterfly effect, although small at the moment, will inevitably become more and more important as time goes by. In other words, the plot will sooner or later be out of control. That being the case, blindly obsessed with pulling back the plot, but in vain in the end. It is better to take advantage of the present to build more advantages and strengthen yourself. For example, save third Hokage and hug this thick leg completely. Cut. Ryuya's eyes were firm, and with a loud shout, the long sword was unsheathed and slashed, all in one go. Laugh. In the next moment, a huge sword energy 200 to 300 meters long, wrapped in the momentum of the thunderbolt, slashed straight towards the 4 purple flame formations. As the sword energy is so powerful, just cutting the sound of the air caused pain in the eardrums of everyone in the venue. For a moment, everyone stopped subconsciously and followed the prestige. Boom. Immediately afterwards, I saw Jian-Chi first cut to the summit platform. The magnificent summit platform, like a piece of tofu, was instantly cut from the middle. And the next moment, the sword energy remained inexhaustible, and it cut straight to the 4 purple flame formations. Shit. The 4 purple flame array, which was solid and with flames, said that it could not be destroyed from the outside. Under the huge sword aura, just like the unlucky summit platform, it was instantly cut in half. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Ryuya's sword was actually aimed at Orochimaru in the formation. But seeing the sword chi attacking him, Orochimaru's face changed suddenly, and he quickly dodged. Boom, boom. The sword energy that Orochimaru evaded continued to fly forward, and with a series of deafening roars, all the buildings along the way were divided into 2. It wasn't until a moment later that the sword chi flew a few miles away, and it suddenly collapsed. Looking at it now, the entire Konoha, like a piece of cake, was cut neatly in the middle. In addition, the post-war statistical loss, the damage caused by Ryuya's knife is more than the combined force of Otonin and Sand Shinobi. The power of a knife is as horrible. No wonder he can steal Sasuke's opponent, no wonder he can defeat that monster. Seeing this scene, I copied the ninja Kakashi, muttered to myself, and instantly relieved. It's worthy of being the young man I like. This is youth. Guy, Konoha's blue beast, rushed towards Ryuya and extended a thumb. It's careless. As a spy, Yakushi Kabuto was still hiding in the dark and couldn't help but blame himself for not discovering such a threatening target before. Master Naruto, on the other hand, at the moment when the 4 purple flame array was cut open, the 3 Anbus had already come to third Hokage to protect him, and at the same time waited for the show. It's kid. Only the last point is enough to kill third Hokage. But because of Ryuya's cut, it fell short in the end. Orochimaru's cold pupils stared at Ryuya with resentment, then took a deep breath and ordered his men. The action is over, let's go back. Yes. The 4 people protected Orochimaru and immediately fled out of the village. Don't want to run away. Anbu immediately pursued, but unfortunately, he was blocked by the opponent's bizarre ninjutsu. Boy, I will come back to find you. When Orochimaru left, he looked down at Ryuya and said with a sneer. Quote. Although his voice was small, Ryuya, who has radar ears, heard clearly and then frowned. Being followed by this lion majesty, I am afraid it will be troublesome in the future. Orochimaru has retreated and signaled the end of the operation. Yakushi Kabuto, other Otonin, and Sand Shinobi also began to find ways to escape. Of course, most of them cannot safely evacuate from Konoha. At the same time, outside Konoha village, there was a loud noise, and then it returned to calm. It's not hard to guess that the battle between Naruto and the others is over. If nothing else, it should be the same as the original. Naruto eventually defeated One-Tail's Gaara. Ended. Looking at the dilapidated meeting place and the corpses everywhere, Ryuya let out a long sigh of relief. The crisis has finally passed. After a few hours, the battle came to an end. Next is the aftermath work, such as repairing damaged buildings, treating the wounded, and collecting the dead. 2 days later, Konoha held a collective funeral to mourn the ninja who died in the battle. Although they were prepared, it was war after all, and many ninjas fell forever. The weather was gloomy, and it soon started to rain. In front of the comforting monument, everyone put on black mourning clothes and mourned for the dead. Quote. This scene has been seen in anime. At that time, Ryuya was quite sad because of the death of 3rd generation. But now, although 3rd generation is not dead, there are still many ninjas who died in battle. Although Ryuya didn't even know these people, when he came to this world, as a ninja, his mood at this time was much heavier than when he was in front of the computer screen. Only then did Ryuya truly realize the cruelty of this world. The real ninja world is not a hot-blooded anime mixed with funny, but a cruel world where death is accompanied by death at any time, everyone is deep in their pain, and continues to bear weight. Become stronger. Must be stronger. Only stronger. Thinking of this, Ryuya forcibly cheered up. Although the plot has changed, many things are destined to happen again. Such as Pain's attack, such as the 4th Ninja War. Faced with such a difficult and dangerous future, Ryuya has no other way. Only by constantly getting stronger until he becomes the strongest can he protect himself, his family, and his companions and friends. Strengthening his conviction again, Ryuya also worked harder. After the funeral, he changed into his mourning clothes and started practicing immediately. He has the system in hand, but because of this, he needs to learn more and stronger skills. In fact, other people grew up in pain just like Ryuya. After the funeral, he immediately invested in the reconstruction of the village and his own practice. In just a few days, Konoha village was rejuvenated again, and it didn't look like it had just gone through a big battle. At the same time, the names of the 2 heroes spread throughout Konoha, and then spread to the world. One is Uzumaki Naruto, who is unrelenting, working hard for his companions to defeat Gaara and avoid the raging beasts of the tail. One is to cut through the 4 purple flame formations and save 3rd Hokage, the shocking Takagi Ryuya. Everything returned to normal. A few days later, after consultation with Konoha's senior management, the results of the Chunin exam were officially released. Although an accident occurred in the middle, the examination was basically completed, so the examination is still valid. According to the performance of all candidates in the exam, Konoha executives believe that there are 2 people who meet the requirements for promotion to Chunin. One is Nara Shikamaru. Whether it's against Otoninkin in the qualifiers or against Sand Shinobi Tamari in the official game, Shikamaru's calm analysis and layout. The coordinating and leadership skills shown in it show that he has the potential to become an excellent captain. Promoted to Chunin. In addition to Shikamaru, another advancer is Takagi Ryuya. With the use of the body replacement technique's magical skills, as well as that amazing knife, with his powerful combat ability, Ryuya is already a powerful ninja who can stand alone, and he deserves to be promoted to Chunin. Congratulations Ryuya. After being promoted, Ryuya put on Chunin's green vest, and the whole person looked much more energetic. After learning the news, Van Ninth specially found a barbecue restaurant to celebrate him together. Takagi Ryuya. Level: Chunin. Organs: ears. Skills: Clone Technique E-Level Ninjutsu Toad Oil Bomb C-Level Ninjutsu 1000 Years of Death Strengthen plus 86,400 E-Level Physical Surgery Body Replacement Technique Strengthen plus 86,400 E-Level Ninjutsu Draw a Sword and Strengthen plus 86,400 E-Level Physical Surgery. At the same time, looking at the personal panel again, the level inside has changed to Chunin. In addition, like the Great Fireball Technique, the Toad Oil Bomb is a C-level ninjutsu. But the difference is that the Great Fireball Technique is used to confront the enemy while the Toad Oil Bomb focuses on the conversion of chakra to oil. Therefore, although each time you perform a spell, you can only spray a little, but the Toad Oil Bomb is already mastered, so it appears in the skill list. By the way, Ryuya, what are your plans for the next practice? Do you have any focus? As an instructor and someone who came here, Hayate asked. As a ninja, after leveling up, in addition to receiving higher level tasks, you can also learn the corresponding ninjutsu. As Chunin, the village will provide some C-level ninjutsu learning. There is more greed than chewing, and there are more ninjutsu to choose from. At this time, ninjas tend to have some emphasis. Because of this, Chunin already has its own field of expertise compared to the cookie-cutter genin. Is there any emphasis? Pick the simple ones and practice first. Ryuya smiled bitterly and shook his head helplessly. The Great Fireball Technique is also grade C. It has been half a year, and he hasn't learned it yet. Boom, boom, boom. A few days later, Ryuya took a physical skill that Chunin could learn from the village and began to practice. Compared with ninjutsu, physique does not need to be printed, and chakra flow is simpler, so it is easier to learn. Although it is physique, but its reputation is not necessarily less ninjutsu. It is the common skill of Gai and Shaoli, and it is also the signature action of Konoha Fluid Art, Leaf Hurricane. Leaf Hurricane, C-level physique, a whirlwind-like leg attack, extremely fast, with powerful destructive power. Leaf Hurricane. Next, without a task, Ryuya began to practice continuously. After such a flash, it was another half a month. Time is up. It has been 60 days since the last time I strengthened the sword and sword. Ryuya has once again obtained the opportunity of unlimited enhancement. Strengthen Toad Oil Bomb. Without even thinking about it, I gave instructions directly. After all, there are only 2 skills left in his skill list at this time. And Toad Oil Bomb is a C-level ninjutsu, of course, is the first choice. Start of unlimited enhancement. Target, skill Toad Oil Bomb. Toad Oil Bomb Strengthen +1. Toad Oil Bomb Strengthen +2. Toad Oil Bomb Strengthen +10, increase the viscosity. Toad Oil Bomb Strengthen +11. Toad Oil Bomb Enhancement +100, storage limit increased. Toad Oil Bomb Strengthen +101. System prompts sounded one after another. Ryuya habitually blocked, and continued to practice Leaf Hurricane. Ryuya. Early that morning, Ryuya practiced at the village as usual, and with a shout, Naruto ran over. There was Jiraiya with Naruto, but he didn't come. Will you leave the village? Seeing Naruto carrying a backpack, Ryuya couldn't help asking. Okay. Naruto nodded and said with a grin. With pervy sage, go find a mother-in-law. So, Ryuya nodded, knowing in his heart. They went to find Tsunade, naturally. In the original book, after the death of third Hokage, Konoha urgently needs a new Hokage to preside over the overall situation. High-level discussions decided that Jiraiya will serve as the 5th Hokage. But Jiraiya has a loose nature and is unwilling to take over. In exchange, he is willing to find Tsunade, who is also one of the 3 ninjas, who has been away all year round, to serve as 5th Hokage. When Jiraiya left, he took Naruto away, accepted him as a disciple, and taught him Rasengan on the road. Later, Rasengan became Naruto's signature ninjutsu, defeating one after another powerful enemy. In this world, third Hokage has not sacrificed because of Ryuya. But in the same way, when playing against Orochimaru, the weakness of third Hokage's old age has become more obvious. Therefore, it was proposed by third Hokage and recognized by Konoha's senior management to elect the new Hokage as soon as possible. In fact, the position of Naruto has already passed to the 4th generation. Because the 4th generation was accidentally sacrificed, 3rd generation had to re-emerge, and it has been temporarily for more than 10 years. Since Hokage is still selected, those candidates are naturally still those. So just like the original book, Jiraiya takes Naruto and embarks on the road to find Tsunade. Be careful. If nothing happens, Naruto and the others will meet Orochimaru again, and there will be a battle between the three ninjas, Ryuya can't help but remind. Okay. Naruto nodded, waved goodbye to Ryuya, and ran back to Jiraiya. Rasengan. Seeing Naruto and Jiraiya leave, Ryuya was envious. But he knew in his heart that Rasengan was 4th Hokage's relic and Jiraiya could not be passed on to outsiders. Therefore, he was destined to miss this ride. Furthermore, Rasengan, as an A-level ninjutsu, depends on Ryuya's aptitude. I am afraid that he will not be able to learn it after 3 years or 5 years. Of course, what Ryuya admires most is that Naruto can worship Jiraiya as a teacher. The guidance of a mentor is really important and rare. Leaf Hurricane. Instead of admiring others, it is better to work hard on your own. Ryuya stopped thinking about it and continued to practice Leaf Hurricane. The sun rose to the top of the head and then slowly set in the west. Unknowingly it was already dusk. Master Naruto is looking for me. After practicing for a day, Ryuya, who was about to go home, was summoned by 3rd Hokage. What? Why? Don't you want to? No, I'm just too surprised. Ryuya waved his hand quickly and looked at his face with a kind smile. Just like the ordinary and kind elder 3rd Hokage, Ryuya still couldn't believe that 3rd Hokage wanted to accept him as his disciple. Not only because Ryuya saved him, but more importantly, because of Ryuya's performance in the Chunin exam. The lowest level of body replacement technique could be used to such an extent, he couldn't help but love talent. 3rd Hokage has taught many students in his life, but his personal disciples are only Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade, which is now the famous Sannin. But Orochimaru has gone the wrong way, Jiraiya is so sloppy, and Tsunade is addicted to gambling. The three are dirty, gambling, and drugs. No one can completely inherit his mantle, making 3rd generation very depressed. Moreover, with his understanding of Orochimaru, who is gloomy in his heart, is absolutely impossible to let Ryuya go. Taking Ryuya as an apprentice, teaching and training until it can fight Orochimaru, is also the responsibility of 3rd generation. Therefore, 3rd generation finally decided to accept Ryuya as an apprentice. The disciple sees master. Immediately after regaining consciousness, Ryuya hurriedly saluted, as if he was afraid that 3rd generation would regret it. This is Lord 3rd Hokage. Even if he doesn't mention his identity, he has all attributes. Chakra, who claims to be a ninja professor who is proficient in all kinds of ninjutsu, and his strength is also at the top of the ninja world. Moreover, 3rd Hokage is extremely good at cultivating disciples, as you can tell from Sannin. Of course, the character aspect is not counted, only strength is mentioned here. It is a great thing to be able to worship 3rd Hokage as a teacher. How could Ryuya refuse? Speaking of it, before saving 3rd Hokage, it was also to hug this thigh, but now it is a complete hug. It surprised me that, just now, Ryuya was still jealous of Naruto and was able to apprentice Jiraiya. Now, he actually worshipped 3rd Hokage as his teacher. Ryuya can't help being funny. Jiraiya is also the apprentice of 3rd generation, so when you turn around, isn't Naruto asking him to be his uncle? It's even more interesting if it's from 4th Hokage. Naruto wants to call him Grandpa Master. Haha, okay. Here, 3rd Hokage, I didn't think so much. Looking at the well-behaved Ryuya, I like it more and more. At the current age of 3rd generation, I am afraid that I will not accept other apprentices in this life. Ryuya is his closed apprentice. Grandchildren, that is especially distressed. It's getting late, and it's too late to teach Ryuya ninjutsu today, but you can check your body first. Regarding Ryuya's information, 3rd Hokage has already learned more about it. During the ninja school, the grade belongs to the tail of the crane. During Genin, although he performed well, all he used was low-level ninjutsu. This shows that Ryuya's qualifications are not good. Therefore, before the instruction, 3rd Hokage must first examine Ryuya's body to find out his crux. That's it. After using special ninjutsu, 3rd Hokage couldn't help sighing. The practice of ninja is actually the manufacture and use of chakra. The source of chakra is the body energy condensed from the 130 trillion cells of the human body one by one, the other is the mental energy that has been tempered and tempered. Ryuya's physical energy is average, but his mental energy is far beyond ordinary people. A 12 or 13-year-old boy with such a tough spirit is far beyond third generation's expectations. The amount of chakra in Ryuya's body, as a Chunin, has far exceeded the average level. So in the manufacture of chakra, Ryuya has no problem. His problem is the use of chakra. Using chakra as energy to perform ninjutsu requires a specific route, that is, the meridians all over the body. The gentle fist of Hyuga's acupuncture point was observed by Byakugan and intercepted the meridians with a special method to achieve the effect of preventing the flow of chakra. The meridians in Ryuya's body are not only narrow, but also deformed to varying degrees. This is a congenital defect, just like dysplasia of a limb. Meridians. After listening to third Hokage, Ryuya frowned. It turned out that his problem was here. At the same time, I can't help but wonder whether meridians are considered organs. According to biology, should they belong to a system of multi-organ cooperation? If so, can it be strengthened through the system? But even if we take a step back, the system can strengthen the meridians. Ryuya's meridians are deformed. Once they are strengthened by the system, will they become worse? Don't be too disappointed. Seeing that Ryuya didn't speak, thinking that he had been hit, third Hokage said. In fact, it is not completely impossible. Nozomi. Ryuya's eyes widened instantly, and his face was full of excitement at third Hokage. If you want to cure it all at once, even Tsunade, the strongest medical ninja today, can't do it. Third generation looked serious, then took out a small pill from the drawer and said with a smile. But the secret medicine of our Sarutobi family is helpful to this disease. The secret medicine. Looking at the little pill in third Hokage's hand, Longya looked confused. The Sarutobi clan, as one of Konoha's famous sects, is able to gain a firm foothold mainly because of their all-attribute chakra. But in fact, the chakra, the full attribute of the Sarutobi clan, is not obtained from blood, but is nurtured through medicine. Coincidentally, this kind of drugs that stimulate chakra properties also has a certain expansion and correction effect on the meridians. Great teacher. After listening to third Hokage, Ryuya was excited again. However, depending on the severity of your problem, it will take at least 10 years to completely correct it. To prevent Ryuya from expecting too much, third Hokage explained in advance. It doesn't matter even 20 years. Ryuya nodded, not at all frustrated. As long as he takes the medicine, his meridians can be corrected little by little, and as long as the meridians are gradually corrected, his speed at practicing ninjutsu will gradually increase. As for how long it will take, Ryuya is confident. After speaking, third Hokage first gave the pill to Ryuya. Nothing. Ryuya took it immediately and there was nothing unusual in his body. Then I couldn't help laughing, too. This is not the elixir in fantasy novels, how can I react? According to third generation, this secret medicine, Ryuya should be taken continuously, 1 capsule per month. Immediately afterwards, third generation told Ryuya to practice on his own. But as soon as he frees up time, he will be approached for guidance. Thank you, teacher. As Hokage, he is usually busy with business, that is to say, third Hokage is using precious rest time to teach him. Ryuya is grateful again. Next, nothing else, Ryuya said goodbye and left. This enhancement is over. In the morning of the next day, the system prompt sounded, and the enhancement of the toad oil bomb was completed. Turn on the system to see the specific effect. First, stickiness. Toad oil is originally extremely viscous, but after the system is strengthened, this characteristic is improved to the extreme. Unless it is the use of special oily substances, it is impossible to get rid of it by physical means alone. Second, the combustion performance. Toad oil can be burned, and its energy content is far more than ordinary fat. After the system is strengthened, this feature is also improved to the extreme, and a drop of oil can burn for several years. Third, the storage limit. If according to the normal scale of the toad oil bomb, Ryuya's own body can be stored at most twice. After strengthening through the system, the upper limit disappears. As long as it is made by Ryuya, no matter how much it can be stored, even if it is a sea of toad oil. Fourth, release the upper limit. No matter how much toad oil, Ryuya can squirt out. In other words, Even if Ryuya really stores a sea of oil, it can be released instantly. It deserves to be a C-level skill. After reading the introduction, Ryuya couldn't help but get excited. In this way, as long as he stores a large amount of toad oil and releases it all at once, most enemies will not be able to avoid it. Coupled with the viscosity and burning performance of toad oil, it can cause restraint and powerful secondary fire attribute damage. At this point, I have to say, whether it is a C-level ninjutsu, whether it is power or coverage, it is far from E-level comparable. Of course, this ninjutsu also has flaws, or more accurately, Ryuya's own flaws. That is because of Ryuya's qualifications. The speed of manufacturing toad oil is too slow, let alone a sea of oil, it is the size of a lake. If his aptitude has not been improved, I am afraid that he will not be able to make it in this life. Of course, under normal circumstances, there is no need for so much toad oil. Takagi Ryuya. Level: Chunin. Organs: ears. Skills: clone technique E-level ninjutsu. 1000 years of death strengthen plus 86,400 E-level physical surgery. Body replacement technique strengthen plus 86,400 E-level ninjutsu. Draw a sword and strengthen plus 86,400 E-level physical surgery. Toad oil bomb strengthen plus 86,400 C-level ninjutsu. At the same time, looking at the personal panel again, the skill bar has changed immediately. In the following days, almost all time was spent in tasks and cultivation. After being promoted to Chunin, Ryuya still followed the 9th squad on missions. Due to the 9th class, there is already a special Jonin and a Chunin. The difficulty of the task that can be taken has been upgraded to level B. The B-level mission has involved battles between ninjas. Compared with the C-level, the risk factor is greatly improved. Of course, matching with it, the reward has also been greatly increased, between 50,000 and 150,000 miles. As for training, Ryuya currently focuses on Leaf Hurricane, and occasionally practicing Great Fireball technique. I don't know whether it is the secret medicine of Sarutobi or the psychological effect. Ryuya feels that the practice seems to be easier. In addition, as 3rd Hokage said, as long as he has time, he will find Ryuya to teach. 3rd generation did not directly teach Ryuya a certain ninjutsu, but started from the basics and exercised his fighting skills, battlefield analysis, and various other adaptability abilities. As a result, unknowingly, Ryuya's foundation has been consolidated, and the overall strength has also been rapidly improved. Although busy every day, it is also extremely fulfilling. Time flies quickly, and it takes more than a month in a blink of an eye. Leaf Hurricane. At noon that day, Ryuya, who did not have a mission, practiced as usual. Boom! With a muffled noise, the big tree kicked by Ryuya shuddered violently, and Shushu dropped many leaves. According to the current situation, this ninjutsu can be practiced in a dozen days. In this way, you can use it after the next skill enhancement. Leaf Hurricane. Thinking of this for a while, Ryuya couldn't help practicing harder and harder. Okay. At this moment, Ryuya suddenly saw a figure and entered the village from the entrance of the village. The Land of Fire enjoys an advantageous geographical location and has many contacts with neighboring countries. And Konoha, as the ninja village in the Land of Fire, often has outsiders appearing. Konoha shinobi will not interfere as long as it is not an enemy and does not cause trouble. But the stranger who entered the village at this moment caught Ryuya's attention instantly. The other party is wearing a hat and can't see his face. But the dark windbreaker, with fire clouds floating on it, is clearly the costume of the Akatsuki organization. During this period, Akatsuki hadn't even started collecting tail beasts, and had not become enemies of the major nations, nor had he even officially surfaced. Therefore, everyone is still very unfamiliar with Huo Yunpao. But as a traverser, Ryuya is very aware of the danger hidden in this suit. Could it be? Recalling the plot, after Konoha was attacked, Akatsuki did come. Konoha rebel Uchiha Itachi, and Mist Shinobi rebel Hoshigaki Kisame, their group came to Konoha to investigate the situation of Naruto, or Nine Tails. After all, Akatsuki's ultimate goal is to collect tail beasts, and then use tail beast weapons to conquer the world and bring so-called permanent peace to the world. But there is only one person at this time. Is it Itachi or Kisame? Ryuya is more inclined to Itachi. After all, Itachi's abilities are more suitable for investigation, and he is more familiar with Konoha. See what you are going to do. The opponent had entered the village. Ryuya thought a little, and followed directly. Faced with Mangekyo Sharingan, who is proficient in illusion, graduated from a ninja school at the age of 7 and became Chunin at the age of 10, Ryuya considers himself no match. But as long as he does not look at Itachi's eyes, with the enhanced body replacement technique, self-protection shouldn't be a problem. Besides, this is Konoha after all, and there are Konoha shinobi people everywhere, even Itachi does not dare to make much noise. Okay, of course, even so, it was the legendary god of Itachi after all, and Ryuya didn't dare to be careless, relying on radar ears to avoid getting too close as much as possible. But to his surprise, Itachi did not seem to come to investigate, but rather like a sightseeing tour, wandering around the village, eating and drinking. This is homesickness, come to the old place and revisit. Ryuya blinked, then smiled, stopped thinking about other things, and concentrated on tracking. About an hour later, Itachi left the residential area and walked towards the wild with fewer people. When I reached a lake, I suddenly stopped by the lake. Ryuya hides in the distance, watching with radar ears. But after a long period of time, there was no movement in Itachi. Ryuya frowned slightly and approached quietly, wanting to see what Itachi was doing. Okay, after waiting for the approach, Ryuya couldn't help frowning again, and saw Itachi standing motionless, like wood plastic. Pong! Just as Ryuya was puzzled, there was a muffled noise, and the Itachi disappeared instantly. It was clone technique. Not good. At the same time, Ryuya's back was instantly crumbled, and someone attacked. Pong! With a muffled noise, Ryuya's body instantly turned into a stone after being penetrated through the back of the heart. Looking at it now, Ryuya has moved to the lake. When using the body replacement technique to avoid the fatal blow just now, Ryuya didn't dare to look up at Itachi's eyes, just staring at his body, frowning and thinking. From the very beginning, he followed the clone. Still speaking, he was stolen and replaced while he was following. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just as Ryuya was thinking about it, there was a sound of breaking through the air, and countless shurikens shot at him. This is, with kunai in his hand, these shurikens were easily dropped. At the same time, seeing the appearance of these shurikens, Ryuya was startled. Although the power is similar, it is not a real shuriken, but a stack of paper. Paper shuriken. Ryuya suddenly recovered and looked up at the Itachi on the opposite side. Tatata. At this time, this Itachi had already rushed towards him. With the rapid movement, the hat on the opponent's head fell, whereas Uchiha Itachi, it is clearly Konan. Sure enough, it's you. Seeing that it was Konan, Ryuya couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As a member of Akatsuki, Konan's strength is not weak. But compared to Itachi, the threat is much smaller. At the same time, Ryuya couldn't help wondering, shouldn't it be Itachi, how did it become Konan? Clang! At this moment, Konan had already rushed up, the stack of paper in his hand. Kunai stabs Ryuya fiercely. Ryuya didn't evade, and directly approached him with his hands, making a clear metal crash. Third generation has been teaching him for more than a month, and Konan is rarely used as a sparring partner today, just to test shuriken. Quote. Compared to Ryuya's calm attitude, Konan did not speak, but looking at Ryuya's gaze was clearly full of murderousness. As the members gradually recruited, Akatsuki's organization had begun to prepare for actions against the tail beast. Before that, we must first gather information. Nine Tails, the most powerful of the tail beasts, is naturally one of the key points. I originally wanted to send the group of Itachi. After all, Itachi is familiar with the environment. But when he heard that Konoha was about to come, Konan, who had rarely spoken, took the initiative. Although the hot pain had long since disappeared, the scars left in her heart could never be erased. How many late nights, she couldn't sleep because of shame. So in addition to investigating Nine Tails this time, she has to find the kid from Konoha and kill him. When he came to Konoha, Konan found that Nine Tails was not in the village. So, she turned to the second goal, first sending a clone to appear in front of Ryuya, and then lure him here. Clang, clang, clang. Amid the collision of the shurikens, the two kept changing positions, and quickly hit the center of the lake from the shore. At this moment, Konan stopped suddenly, pulling away a little. Okay, why stopped? Ryuya was stunned, then looked at the surrounding environment, and instantly understood. You are too careless. At this moment, Konan spoke with a hint of pride. Stand in Ryuya, but above the lake at this time, I see what kind of substitute you use. It's really careless. Ryuya frowned, pretending to be annoyed. To perform the body replacement technique, an object of 1 to 100 kg is required. But above the lake, there is nothing but water. Unformed water cannot be used as a substitute. Even if Ryuya is specially made, it is deliberately heavier and reaches the standard of 1 kg. However, after the shot falls, it immediately sinks to the bottom of the lake, unable to stay on the lake surface, and unable to move through its displacement and launch a surprise attack. Obviously, Konan specifically investigated Ryuya's intelligence and selected this venue in a targeted manner. How do you know my body replacement technique ability? At the same time, Ryuya couldn't help asking curiously. 3 million too. At this point, the anger on Konan's face grew deeper. In order to get your information, it cost me 3 million taels. Tisk tisk, it's dark. Ryuya pouted for a while, but he didn't expect his intelligence to be so valuable. In fact, after the Chunin exam, as third Hokage expected, the namestand in Ryuya quickly spread throughout the world. Experience tells everyone that countries can become enemies at any time. Therefore, regarding such a new star, it immediately attracted the attention of other large and small countries. As a result, the price of information about Ryuya's abilities is getting higher and higher. Unfortunately, as for how others learned about Ryuya's information, it was obviously inferred from his performance in the Chunin exam. Ryuya smiled secretly. This information is not accurate. At this time, Ryuya was only 300 meters away from the shore, and Konan showed his intentions. Obviously, the information she got, the maximum distance of Ryuya body replacement technique is within 200 to 300 meters. The reason for this result must be that Ryuya had moved more than 200 meters while avoiding Gaara's sand ha. In the eyes of ordinary people, this is very abnormal. But how do they know that Ryuya's true displacement distance is 1 mile, which is 500 meters? Therefore, Ryuya seems to be trapped on the surface of the lake at this time, but can actually move back to the shore at any time. Ryuya smiled secretly. Konan spent 3 million taels in vain. On the surface, he pretends to be calm, but he looks flustered. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this time, Konan, who thought he had succeeded, began to output to Ryuya with paper. Clang, clang, clang. Ryuya pretended to be unable to move, but kept trying to block. Paper rain. After all, this is Konoha. Konan must fight quickly. With a soft drink, the huge wings formed by the paper behind him shot countless pieces of paper at Ryuya. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Ryuya tried to resist and dodge, raising his hand and shooting kunai everywhere. Don't think about it. Thinking that Ryuya wanted to escape through Kuwu's substitute, Konan gave a soft drink and directly changed the target. Before Kuwu could fly away, he intercepted and recovered him. Toad oil bomb. At this moment, Ryuya suddenly shouted, and a huge amount of toad oil was poured directly on Konan. Wow, more than twice the usual number of toad bombs, and when he was caught off guard, Konan was splashed. Mistakes and omissions are sometimes fatal. It's done. Ryuya smiled when he saw Konan, who had been recruited. How about it? You won't be able to play with origami after being soaked in oil. You, stained with slimy toad oil. Konan was annoyed. In addition to attacks like fire style, the most feared thing about her style paper dance is oil. Whoosh. At this time, it was not waiting for Konan to think about why Ryuya knew the weakness of her technique. The sound of breaking through the air sounded, and seeing the kunai shot by Ryuya behind her, he couldn't help but think of the painful 1,000 years of death. Konan's face changed suddenly. Escaped. Looking at the empty lake, Ryuya couldn't help but curl his lips. I don't know what kind of ninjutsu Konan used, and suddenly disappeared in a cloud of smoke just now. But it's right to think about it. As a member of Akatsuki's organization, when implementing the infiltration plan, how could there be no preparation for evacuation? Thank you, Jiraiya. Looking at the grease remaining on the lake, Ryuya smiled again. As a paper, Konan's paper dance cannot be used after being dipped in oil, which happens to be restrained by this trick of toad oil bomb. When Konan exploded, she didn't expect her to be so vengeful that she would chase Konoha. And with the careful eyes of a woman, after this miss, I'm afraid it won't stop in the future. With this trick-toed bomb in hand, Ryuya can't help but feel more relieved. But speaking of it, just now, in order to ensure that he could hit, Ryuya sprayed out all the oil accumulated before. Next, I had to take some time to transform some toad oil. Although Konan is a member of Akatsuki, Ryuya, as a traverser, actually has a good impression of her. Now that Konan had retreated, he didn't want to pursue it anymore, and then turned and left. Ha, it's disgusting. What did this woman do? It's oily. Get away from her. As soon as Ryuya returned to the village, Radar suddenly heard the whispers of many passers-by. Under normal circumstances, the radar ear can cover 10 miles, and the directional screening can even reach thousands of miles. But with so many voices, if you listen to them all, Ryuya would have been crazy long ago. Therefore, out of physical instinct, it will filter information and automatically block content that has nothing to do with itself. She hasn't left the village yet. According to the words of passers-by, it can be determined that a woman covered with grease appeared on the street. Just imagine, besides Konan, who was sprayed all over him, who else could be? See where you are going. Ryuya chuckled at the corner of his mouth and hurried over immediately. The radar ear monitors continuously to determine Konan's position. After a while, Ryuya came to a corner on the street and hid quietly. Konan at this time is on the street next to him. If nothing else, he will pass here in a minute. Coming. The radar ears have locked Konan's footsteps, and he is about to come over. Ryuya smiled at the corner of his mouth, and his hands were already tied. Just now on the lake, Konan escaped, 1,000 years of death emptied, just to make up for her. Although it is an enemy, as a traverser, I don't really hate Konan. So Ryuya never really killed Konan, it was more playful. This is the time. Immediately afterwards, the sound of footsteps sounded, and the target had appeared. 1,000 years of death. When the conditions behind his back were met, Ryuya did not hesitate to launch a surprise attack. Puff! Ah! The next moment, with a muffled noise, a scream resounded across Konoha. How about it, comfortable? When it's done, Ryuya smiles at the corner of his mouth, and at the same time can't help but feel refreshed. It's been a long time since I stabbed someone. It's been a long time, what a touch. You. At this time, the man lying on the ground turned his head back, and glared at Ryuya with full of resentment. Huh. When he saw the other person's appearance, Ryuya was stunned for an instant. How could it not be Konan? In fact, not only the appearance, but also the figure and clothing are completely different. But unfortunately, Ryuya has been listening just now, not watching at all. Tsunade just wanted to talk. When the pain hit again, she couldn't help holding back, and then she was full of anger. She had just returned to the village when she met a weird woman who was hurriedly walking at the entrance of the village, as if she was running away, and was rubbed with disgusting oil. It seemed to be frog oil, but it was obviously more viscous. Instead of cleaning it up, she got all over her body. She came back to serve as 5th Hokage, but she entered the village in such an embarrassing posture, and was pointed along the way. Tsunade was already annoyed enough, but she never expected that for no reason, a kid suddenly appeared, and he came up directly and exploded her. I'm going to kill. Tsunade was so angry that he wanted to pinch the kid in front of him to death. But the pain was unbearable, and there was a moment of numbness and soreness. Tsunade even suspected that the fingers of this kid wouldn't be coated with chili noodles and poison. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but feel more resentful towards this vicious little devil. Master Tsunade, Mother Tsunade. At this moment, with two exclaims, two people chased up from behind. Naruto. Ryuya saw that one of them was Naruto. Didn't Naruto go to Tsunade? Why did he come back? Ryuya's eyes widened instantly. Isn't it just Tsunade that Naruto and the others shouted? Then he looked down, and the surging sister in front of him was not Tsunade Haim. In an instant, the cold sweat on Ryuya's head fell off, and he actually exploded Tsunade's chrysanthemum. Whoosh. Next moment, body replacement technique. It's still not flashing at this time, waiting to be pinched to death by this strange girl Tsunade. Hey, I seem to see Ryuya just now. Naruto, who ran over at this moment, couldn't help scratching his head. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After using body replacement technique one after another and escaping outside the village, Ryuya dared to stop. It's over. Although he ran away, the little heart was still beating fiercely, which caused a big trouble. After hiding outside for a day, seeing the sky is getting late, Ryuya quietly turned back. The teacher is looking for me. As soon as I entered the village, I got news, and third Hokage summoned him. The teacher always took out precious rest time to guide him in his cultivation. Ryuya did not dare to neglect, and hurried to the Hokage office. Teacher, you are looking for me. Ryuya, you come. Seeing Ryuya coming, third Hokage smiled and pointed to the person by the window and said, "She is Senju Tsunade, your senior sister. Tsunade, this is what I told you, my new disciple, Takagi Ryuya." Hehe, my lovely little teacher. Tsunade, who had changed into clean clothes, turned around with a smile, just in time to see Ryuya, who was about to turn around and sneak away. Boom. The next moment, Tsunade's feet suddenly exerted force, and the floor shattered in an instant. At the same time, his figure flickered to the door, stretched out his arms to block the way, and an evil smile appeared on his face. "Little junior brother, where are you going?" I have urgency." "Then hold it back first, senior sister will take care of it for you very gently." Okay. This scene made third Hokage a little surprised. "Have you seen it already? Miss Sarutobi, you don't know. As soon as I entered the village, the junior brother greeted me enthusiastically." Tsunade lowered his head slightly, staring at Ryuya's smile becoming more and more grim. "So next, I will take care of the younger brother." With Tsunade's weird power, let alone peeing, even the shit was beaten out with a punch. At this moment, third Hokage on the side pretended not to see anything. Facing the violent Tsunade, the old man also stunned. Still whispering there, what exactly did Ryuya do to provoke Tsunade to the point of violent action? Ryuya, who was devastated, did not dare to fight back. After all, he was the first to make a mistake. Moreover, if Tsunade is not let out of this breath, does he still want to have a good life in the future? But in fact, Tsunade even said that, as a woman who loves to bear a grudge, Ryuya's later days in Konoha can only be described by the words, deep and hot. However, suffering, Ryuya, a happy family. From now on, I will dominate this village. Fifth Hokage. Standing on the roof of the Hokage office, Tsunade made an energetic declaration. In fact, the arrival of Tsunade and the inauguration of the new Hokage really gave the village a boost. The teenagers practice harder in order to become stronger, and the whole village is full of vitality. Leaf hurricane. Click. With a loud shout, the thin trunk of the basketball in front of him was kicked off by Ryuya. Finally practiced. After more than 2 months of hard training, the most important thing is that I have taken the Sarutobi secret medicine twice, which seems to have played a role. C-level physical skills leaf hurricane, Ryuya finally got it. Like drawing a knife and cutting, it is an attack skill. But in contrast, as a C-level melee physical skill, it is more powerful. From the tree that was kicked off, a Madara was also visible. As an attacking skill, leaf hurricane matches a powerful force at a whirlwind speed and possesses terrifying destructive power. Fire style. Great fireball technique. Just learned a new skill, but Ryuya did not rest, and immediately started a new practice. Call. With a muffled sound, a fireball with a diameter of 70 or 80 centimeters spouted from the mouth. Although it is an intermittent practice, the great fireball technique is constantly improving as time accumulates. But to truly master this technique, the diameter of the fireball after it is fully released must be at least 8 meters. There is still a long way to go before success. However, Ryuya is not discouraged, and is patient with repeated practice. Another task. Soon after Konoha was attacked, many places needed to be rebuilt, which required a lot of money. On the other hand, Konoha must also show the outside world as soon as possible that their strength is still there to prevent some eager hearts. Therefore, after Tsunade came to power, while establishing an alliance with Tsunagakure, who was also hit hard, Konoha began to receive a large number of high-level tasks. One is to obtain funds, and the other is to show strength. Although the 9th squad was established not long ago, it has a special Jonin and a Chunin, so the tasks cannot help but increase, and the task level has also improved a lot. Finally came back. That afternoon, after completing a B-level task again, Ryuya and the others returned to Konoha in exhaustion. At the same time, I can't help but discover that there are obviously fewer ninjas in the village, and they are obviously doing tasks outside. Go together. No. The first thing I did when I returned to the village was to report to Hokage about the mission. Hayate asked, but Ryuya resolutely refused. Tsunade still has a grudge against him. If he can't meet, it's better not to meet. Rather than being ravaged by Tsunade, he might as well go home and take a hot bath. What? But who knows that when he got home, the trousers hadn't been taken off, and the wind came and said that 5th Hokage was looking for him. This is a rhythm that can't be avoided. Ryuya has no choice but to bite the bullet and come to the Hokage office. What? But what I didn't expect was that Tsunade was not to ravage him, but to have an urgent task. Just last night, Uchiha Sasuke left the village privately. According to speculation, he was bewitched by Orochimaru and went to Otonin village. Because Jonin and Chunin in the village have tasks that cannot escape, they have no choice but to send Shikamaru, who has just been promoted to Chunin, to lead a team to pursue them. Shikamaru found Naruto, Neji, Inuzukaga, and Choji, a total of 5 people, and they have already gone after them. But so far, no news has been returned. Tsunade has also sent a message to Sunagaku, hoping to get their support, but still feels uneasy. At exactly this time, Ryuya came back and let Ryuya act as a reinforcement force to go to the rescue. I understand. After listening, Ryuya nodded, then turned and left. Hey. Just when Ryuya was about to go out, Tsunade suddenly stopped him. Don't die, my lovely little brother. Don't worry, I haven't had enough of your abuse, master perverted sister. Ryuya smiled and waved, then walked out the door. This kid, when he comes back, he must replace the teacher and give him guidance on what is polite. Tsunade smiled. For some reason, when Ryuya left, the original anxiety instantly relaxed a lot. It still happened. Ryuya here, after monitoring the equipment, despite being exhausted, he went to chase immediately without any pause. In the original work, Sasuke was severely injured by Itachi and almost had a nervous breakdown. Especially when I saw that Naruto's peers are constantly improving, they are deeply stimulated again and desperately want to become stronger. At this time, Orochimaru sent him an invitation. The reason why Orochimaru found Sasuke was to cultivate him into a perfect container, and then use the immortal reincarnation technique to seize Sasuke's body and obtain Sharingan. In this regard, Sasuke is not ignorant, but in order to become stronger, in order to revenge against Itachi, he decided to go and seek skin with the tiger. In this world, because of Ryuya's relationship, it is not Itachi but Konan who came. Ryuya originally thought that Sasuke might be able to avoid the wrong path in the original book. But unfortunately, the personality of the person has long been doomed, and Ryuya also underestimated Orochimaru's fascination ability. Sasuke still left Konoha. We must hurry. According to the plot of the original book, Shikamaru's group and the 5 members of Otonin each had a fierce confrontation. As a result, there are winners and losers, but even victory is a miserable victory. The final result was that Sand Shinobi's reinforcements arrived in time and Tsunade's powerful medical ninjutsu. Although the group did not recover Sasuke, they all saved their lives. But in this world, will it still be like this? If there is a slight mistake, Shikamaru and the others may be over. So Ryuya can't delay and must catch up immediately. Chapter 31. With the radar ears and the marks left by Shikamaru along the way, Ryuya can clearly know the pursuit route. Use body replacement technique directly and continuously to catch up quickly in a flashing way. Choji. After a while, Ryuya found Akamichi Choji first. At this time, Choji had already defeated Jirobo, the 5-member Otonin, but because of taking Akamiki's secret medicine chili pills, he fell into a coma with side effects, and his life was at stake. Ryuya frowned, and did not send Choji back to Konoha, but continued to pursue. In addition to Ryuya, Konoha's medical ninjas have also been dispatched. From the radar ears, they will be able to arrive soon. Ryuya doesn't know how to do medical ninjutsu, so instead of delaying time here, he should hurry up to chase other people. Neji. Some distance later, Ryuya found Neji again. His opponent is Onizumaru, who is the most difficult to deal with except Junmaro among the five. Like the original, Neji has defeated Onizumaru, and he himself has fallen to the ground with serious injuries. As long as everything is the same as the original, there should be no need to worry. Ryuya did not delay and continued to catch up. Found it. Finally, after a while, Ryuya found Inuzukaga and Shikamaru. The two of them were fighting Sakanuken and Tayuya respectively. But I didn't see Naruto and Sasuke, who should have entered a state of suspended animation, hiding in a wooden barrel. What happened? Ryuya immediately used radar ears to search, frowning instantly, and the plot really changed. You two hold on for a while. Shikamaru and Inuzukaga are already in a hard fight, and the situation is very critical. But Ryuya did not step forward to help, but shouted, and then left. Hey, you fool, I'm afraid it will be troublesome now. Seeing Ryuya, who left without regard to their life and death, Ya and Shikamaru were annoyed again and had a headache. Just imagine, how could Ryuya ignore the life and death of his companions? In fact, the radar ears just now discovered that Temari and Kankuro in Sand Shinobi's reinforcements are not far from here. With the two of them rescued, Shikamaru and Ya are safe. Moreover, this is another opportunity for Shikamaru and Temari to have a relationship. As a Naruto fan, how can Ryuya be troubled? Of course, the most important thing is that the other side needs his rescue. Bang bang bang. At this time, a few miles away, through the woods, above a clearing, Xiaoli and Gaara are fighting a pale white-haired boy. When the two of them joined forces, they fell into a bitter battle. Their opponent is the leader of the Otonin 5 people and the most satisfying container of Orochimaru, Kagaya Junmaro. After Tsunade's treatment, Xiaoli has regained his life, but after all he has not fully recovered, so he is not in the pursuit team. But when he heard the news, out of concern for his companions, he immediately caught up. Gaara, as Sand Shinobi's reinforcements, rushed to Temari and Kankuro for a while. It just so happened that the two met Naruto, who was fighting with Junmaro, and rescued him at a critical juncture. Next, Sasuke awoke, jumped out of the barrel, and continued to flee forward. But Naruto desperately chased after him. Xiaoli and Gaara originally wanted to catch up, but they didn't expect that they were stopped by Junmaro alone. After another confrontation, looking at the unscathed Kumaro, with severe physical exertion, Xiaoli and Gaara, who were already panting, couldn't help frowning. Whether it is Xiaoli's Gangquan, or Gaara's sand, both possess extremely powerful destructive power. However, it will not hurt Junmaro at all. As the Kei Yoruichi clan, Junmaro possesses the boundary of blood inheritance called bone vessel. The so-called bone veins are the horrible ability to freely manipulate their own bones. You can use bones to make the sharpest spear, or it can be turned into the strongest shield. If it weren't for the genetic disease of the Kei Yoruichi clan, Junmaro would be the best container for Orochimaru to reincarnate, so he wouldn't use it for Sasuke's idea. Dance of Iron Thread Flowers. With a loud shout, Junmaro pulled his spine from his back, like a long whip, directly towards Gaara. Snapped. With a soft sound, the spinal whip instantly wrapped Gaara. Although there is sand blocking, the sharp bone spurs will not hurt Gaara, but at this time it is tightly entangled and cannot break free for a while. Flower. Junmaro gave another soft drink. His other arm, countless bones proliferated, and instantly formed a thick and sharp spear, and then sprinted towards Gaara. The strongest defense. Shield of the Crane. Entangled by the spinal whip, Gaara couldn't dodge for a while. Seeing that the situation is critical, she shouted and used sand to form a wall in front of her. Boom! But the next moment, Gaara's shield of Crane, known as the strongest defense, was directly pierced by Junmaro's bone spear. How can that be? Gaara was full of horror. He gathered the harder minerals underground and used chakra to fuse them with sand. At this level, he couldn't resist Junmaro's bone spear. Not good. At the same time, Junmaro's bone spear was inexhaustible, and he still pierced Gaara straight. Gaara's eyes were wide open, and if he hit it this way, he would definitely die. But at this time, no one can save him. After all, even the shield of the Crane can't resist. Who can stop this monster? Cut. At this moment, a loud shout suddenly sounded. Laugh. The next moment, an invisible sword energy struck from not far away and went straight to Junmaro. This is Gaara was startled again. This kind of sword aura was too familiar to him. Shit. The sword energy came in an instant, and it slashed directly on Junmaro's bone spear. Junmaro originally thought that with the strength of his bones, this sword aura couldn't help him at all. But obviously, he was wrong, and with a soft sound, the bones on his arm were cut open instantly. Junmaro was taken aback, and hurriedly pulled his hand and jumped. Shit. Sword chi continued to move forward, and while smashing the bone spear, it took advantage of the situation to restrain Gaara's spine whip and also cut it off. Tread, tread, tread. Junmaro leapt back several times in succession, temporarily distanced himself, and looked at the front warily. Whoosh. The next moment, a figure appeared. It was Ryuya. Stand-in Ryuya. Looking at Ryuya, Junmaro was still expressionless and his voice was low. Sure enough, it's you. Kagaya Junmaro. Ryuya looked at Junmaro, but frowned. At this time, Junmaro, although his face was sick, but there was no sign that his life was about to come to an end. In the original plot, Shaoli arrived in time and rescued Naruto. After Naruto chased Sasuke, Shaoli faced Junmaro. Then Gaara arrived in time and saved Shaoli. And now, Shaoli and Gaara arrived almost at the same time, but these are not important. The most important thing is Junmaro. Judging from Junmaro's condition, there is indeed a serious illness in the body, but for some unknown reason, it seems that the illness has been temporarily controlled. It's not that Junmaro, whose life is about to come to an end, has the strength of his heyday. This is why, in the original plot, the shield of the crane that blocked Junmaro's bone spear can't be stopped here. Therefore, Junmaro at this time is more than twice as strong as in the anime. After trying to understand this, Ryuya couldn't help frowning. This time it was really troublesome. Bring it on. At this time, Junmaro spoke. His bones proliferated rapidly, forming a layer of bony armor on his body, and provocatively hooked his fingers at Ryuya. Come and kill me. Draw a knife. Ryuya did not hesitate, and immediately drew his sword and slashed. A 3-meter-long sword aura whizzed towards Junmaro. Click, click. The sword chi clenched the bones and made a harsh sound like grinding teeth. Pong. Sword chi cut in 1 centimeter, and finally collapsed suddenly with a muffled noise. It's really strong. Looking at the sword marks on the bones, Junmaru exclaimed. But a pity, your bones are harder. Ryuya's brow furrowed deeper, with a hint of helplessness in her tone. Although the sword cuts iron like mud, the hardness of Junmaro's bones is far more than that of steel. Under the ordinary slash, Ryuya cuts Junmaro's bones at all. As for the blow to rescue Gaara, it was naturally accumulated. But to accumulate energy, you need to maintain the posture of drawing the sword and slashing. When facing the enemy, how could it be possible to give him a chance to accumulate energy, especially a master of physical skills like Junmaro? No, no, still not. You can't cut with a knife, and even 1,000 years of death can't do it. The bones made by Junmaro can protect even the chrysanthemums. Ryuya couldn't get in even if he poke his finger. Body replacement technique can only carry out displacement, without actual attack ability, and naturally it can't. As for the newly strengthened toad oil bomb, with its super stickiness, although it can control the enemy, it can't control Junmaro. Because he can proliferate bones indefinitely, he can completely remove a layer of bones and get rid of the oil on it. Besides, before playing against Konan, all of the toad oil was sprayed out at once. How much time has passed now? The number of those newly manufactured by Ryuya is really too small. 10 fingers pierced. At this time, Junmaro had already launched an attack. With a soft drink, the phalanx at the end of the 10 fingers shot at Ryuya like a powerful bullet. Whoosh! Ryuya used the body replacement technique, and it flashed immediately. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Tang Song's dance. And then, after Ryuya appeared again, Junmaro had already rushed up. With sword-like bones stretched out all over, it is not only extremely dangerous when close to the body, but also has a strong defensive power. In the previous battle, Shaoli opened the first gate in the 8th gate, but was unable to damage it at all. Obviously, Junmaro also has information about Ryuya. Otherwise, how could he directly call out the name, stand-in Ryuya? Based on the information, Junmaro speculated that Ryuya's sword chi in cutting off his bone spear was increased by, So, he stood still and let Ryuya kill him. I just want to try whether Ryuya's normal slash can cut off his strengthened bones. In fact, Ryuya also wants to know this question, because it will directly determine the life and death of the two. Regrettably, the cut continued. In this way, Ryuya can't help Junmaro, who can attack so unscrupulously. Whoosh, he couldn't fight hard with Junmaro, who was all over his bones. Ryuya had no choice but to move and evade again. Fortunately, although he couldn't break the defense of Junmaro couldn't keep up with his speed. At best, no one could do anything. Do you plan to stay in hiding forever? Junmaro, who was thrown into the air again, was still expressionless, then turned around, and suddenly went straight to Shaoli. Yes, he can't catch standalone Ryuya, but there are two little bugs here, and he can pinch them to death first. Seeing Junmaro rushing up, Shaoli's eyes widened and he was ready to fight. He was not Junmaro's opponent, and at this time, his unhealed body broke again because of the force, and there were bursts of heart-piercing pain. If Shaoli fights Junmaro recklessly, he will definitely die. Whoosh! Seeing that Junmaro was about to rush to Shaoli, a figure dangled. It was Ryuya. Ryuya's expression was solemn, and he stood directly between Junmaro and Shaoli. Aren't you going to flee? Junmaro is still expressionless, but his cold look shows the excitement in his heart. Attack Shaoli in order to lure Ryuya to come. At the next moment, Junmaro will attack Ryuya. Leaf Hurricane. But at this moment, Ryuya shouted and kicked directly at Junmaro. Boom! With a muffled noise, Junmaro was caught off guard and kicked out several meters with his feet plowing the ground. You still have this trick. Junmaro, who had regained his footing, had a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Although unexpected, this trick was useless to him. Just imagine, if this trick worked, Shaoli would have defeated Junmaro long ago. Can I only retreat? Of course Ryuya knew it was useless. Just now he was only temporarily blocking Junmaro. At this time, he was already thinking that if he didn't work, he had to run away. He can retreat easily, but can Shaoli and Gaara escape? Even if they escaped, what about Sasuke's Naruto who had already gone after him? There are Shikamaru and Yahu have just escaped danger, Tamari and Kankuro who have come to rescue, Neji and Choji who are seriously injured, and Konoha medical team. Junmaro, who has no one to stop him, is bound to kill him. When that happens, these people may be in danger. But what else can be done if you don't escape? Congratulations host. Get an unlimited enhancement opportunity. When Ryuya was in a dilemma, the system prompt suddenly sounded. This is. Ryuya couldn't help but was taken aback, and suddenly remembered, yes, today is exactly 60 days, and he once again gets the opportunity of unlimited enhancement. In fact, in the morning, it can already be strengthened. But Ryuya, who had just completed the task, forgot for a while. Ryuya has not been strengthened. It was already evening, and the system took the initiative to issue a reminder. Strengthen Leaf Hurricane. Thinking of this, Ryuya immediately issued instructions. This unlimited enhancement, the goal, skill Leaf Hurricane. Host is sure. Determine. Without hesitation, Ryuya couldn't help but smile. He wants to see how hard Junmaro's bones are. Start of unlimited enhancement. Goal, skill Leaf Hurricane. Leaf Hurricane strengthen +1. Leaf Hurricane strengthen +2. Leaf Hurricane strengthen +10, increase strength. Leaf Hurricane strengthen +11. After the order was given, the system prompts sounded one after another. Ryuya couldn't help feeling happy when he saw the words, strength boost. See how you save him this time. At this moment, Junmaro shouted loudly and rushed towards Shaoli again. Junmaro is coming fiercely. Ryuya hastily blocked the system prompts and responded with all his strength. Leaf Hurricane. Facing Junmaro who rushed up, Ryuya didn't move this time. Instead, he just kicked it up. Boom. There was a muffled noise, but this time, Junmaro, who had been prepared for a long time, didn't move a bit. Okay. Although he easily resisted Ryuya's foot, Junmaro vaguely felt that this foot was heavier than before. Die. But he didn't think much, and then he shouted loudly, stretched out a bone knife from the palm of his hand, and slashed at Ryuya. Tsubaki dance. Whoosh. Ryuya frowned, and could only leave again. Tread. After Ryuya's successive obstacles, Shaoli also got a breath, took the opportunity to leap, and temporarily distanced himself from Junmaro. Prison sand burial. At the same time, Gaara shouted and took the opportunity to start ninjutsu. I saw Junmaro's feet, the ground instantly turned into quicksand, and then swallowed him. This ninjutsu is one of Gaara's killers. It can sink an enemy 200 meters underground, making it impossible to move with great pressure. Call. After this trick was used up, Gaara panted heavily and couldn't help sitting on the ground. Just now a series of fierce battles, his chakra consumption is huge, this move has exhausted his last chakra. 1. Seeing Junmaro sinking into the ground, Xiaoli was excited. It is 200 meters underground, and it is impossible for a normal person to break free. I'm afraid not. At this moment, Ryuya spoke, still his expression dignified. After all, in the original plot, Gaara used this trick to deal with Junmaro, but he still climbed up. What's more, Junmaro at this time is twice as strong as in the original plot. How can this? Boom. Before Xiaoli's words were finished, with a loud noise, the quicksand suddenly exploded, and Junmaro jumped out of the ground. The pressure of 200 meters underground was actually broken free. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Seeing this scene, Xiaoli was stunned for an instant. What kind of monster this is? It really is a monster. You know, in the original work, Junmaro has already turned into a state of curse, using the trick, Sawara dance, to escape. But at this time, the normal state of the curse seal was not activated, and he drilled directly from the ground. The most important thing is that Xiaoli's old injury recurs and Gaara chakra is exhausted. With Ryuya alone at this time, facing the powerful Junmaro, I am afraid that he cannot protect both of them at the same time. Die. At this moment, Junmaro shouted and rushed directly to Gaara. Anyone who is sunk 200 meters underground must have revenge, the first thing to climb out. Whoosh. Leaf hurricane. Gaara, who had run out of chakra, couldn't resist at all. Ryuya could only move past, and then kicked again. Boom. This kick hits Junmaro, but unfortunately, he couldn't beat him back. Okay. Although he was not repulsed, Junmaro was startled. If it was not obvious just now, I thought it was an illusion, but this time he clearly felt that the strength of Ryuya's foot was obviously much heavier than the first time. Junmaro raised his head and looked at Ryuya suspiciously. This person seemed to hide a secret with terrifying power. Whoosh. And taking advantage of this opportunity, Ryuya took Gaara and leapt back quickly, leaving Junmaro away temporarily. Not enough. I took the opportunity to take a look at the system, strengthened once per second, and has been strengthening the strength, but obviously, it is not enough to deal with Junmaro. What Ryuya lacks most now is time. As long as he can delay for some time and wait for the system to strengthen, Leaf Hurricane, to a certain level, he can definitely defeat Junmaro. After all, Leaf Hurricane's power-type skills are exactly the nemesis of Junmaro, who focuses on defense. Go to hell. But unfortunately, Junmaro didn't seem to plan to give Ryuya this time, and with a roar, he rushed up again. Ryuya couldn't help frowning. He might not be able to stop it this time. Scythe Itachi. Seeing that the situation was critical, a soft drink suddenly sounded. Call. With the whistling sound, I saw a storm hit, instantly engulfing Junmaro. Gaara. Then, with an anxious cry, Temari ran over. Great. When the reinforcements arrived, Ryuya couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Another bug. After the storm passed, Junmaro still stood in place. His skeletal defense was really too strong, and the scythe weasel technique, which was wrapped in countless sharp-edged winds, didn't even hurt him at all. Then try this. At this moment, with the sound of Kaka gears, a puppet appeared, directly covering Junmaro. Now that Temari is here, how little Kankuro is. The prey swallowed by my black ants will be crushed. Pong. The proud Kankuro hadn't finished speaking yet. With a muffled noise, countless bone blades stretched out, and his puppet was torn to pieces. The boring bug. Junmaro, who was out of trouble again, had a cold expression and was about to attack again. At this time, he suddenly discovered that he could not move. The shadow imitation technique is successful. Looking at it now, Junmaro's shadow has been fixed, and a slightly loose voice sounded. It was Shikamaru. As reinforcements, Temari and Kankuro, although one step behind Gaara, successfully rescued Shikamaru and Ya. Ya has lost combat effectiveness, but Shikamaru is okay. The three of them were worried about the fighting here, so they rushed for reinforcements immediately. Just now Temari's scythe, and Kankuro's black ants are actually bait, in order to create opportunities for Shikamaru to perform shadow imitation. I have to say that although this strategy is simple, it is very successful. You have to be faster, I can't control this monster for too long. At this time, Shikamaru's voice sounded. There is not much chakra left, not to mention the power of Junmaro. Understand. Ryuya smiled at the corner of his mouth, holding the handle of the knife with his right hand, and drew the knife at Junmaro. As long as he accumulates his power for a certain period of time, he can cut off Junmaro's bones and behead him. Ryuya was accumulating energy, and Junmaro suddenly let out a series of roars. And amidst the roar, from his chest, countless black straight stripes stretched across his body instantly. I can't catch it. At this time, Shikamaru yelled, and the whole person fell to the ground, and the shadow imitation technique was forcibly broken away. The curse of the earth. Seeing Junmaro in this state, Ryuya frowned, and this guy turned into a face. Orochimaru Isshin is immortal and constantly researches various taboo techniques. In order to collect materials, he recruited a large number of ninjas with various abilities. Among them is a sage body with a special bloodline limit called Libra Shigeo. Extracting bodily fluids from Libra Wade My Body, Orochimaru developed a curse seal. After being injected into the body of the ninja, it can trigger a powerful force. As one of the 5 Odonin people, Junmaro is also Orochimaru's most respected subordinate. He was awarded the seal of the Curse of the Earth, second only to Sasuke's seal of the Curse of the Sky. Fettered by shadow imitation, Ryuya drew his sword and began to accumulate energy. With life and death at stake, Junmaro finally used the power of the curse seal. I'm going to pinch you all to death. After breaking free, Junmaro immediately dodged and avoided Ryuya's attack direction. Then he looked at everyone in front of him with murderous intent on his face. Having lost his goal, Ryuya could only stop accumulating energy, looked at Junmaro in the state of curse, and sighed secretly. There was no way but to fight hard. Sighed Itachi. Obviously, other people also understand this truth, and Temari took the lead. Click. Immediately afterwards, Kankuro manipulated the other puppets and also pounced on Junmaro. Xiao Li was seriously injured and Gaara and Shikamaru chakra were exhausted. The 3 of them can only go to the side to rest temporarily, hoping to regain some combat effectiveness as soon as possible. Whoosh. Toad oil bomb. After the 2 waves of Temari and Kankuro attacks, Ryuya moved and reached Junmaro's side, then opened his mouth to spit out all the toad oil in his body. Although the number is small, it can cover Junmaro's whole body. Little fireball technique. Junmaro has a skeletal vein, which can remove bones and break free of toad oil, so Ryuya didn't expect to be able to control him. Instead, he spouted a fireball with a diameter of 70 or 80 centimeters. Boom. With a loud noise, the fireball exploded, instantly igniting the toad oil, and the raging fire completely enveloped Junmaro. Did you make it? Looking at Junmaro who was burned, everyone still looked vigilant. Click, click, but obviously, just a few flames can't kill Junmaro at all. With the crisp sound, Junmaro dropped a layer of bones and got rid of the burning toad oil. Tang Song's dance. Tsubaki dance. The next moment, as Junmaru shouted loudly, sharp bones grew out of his body, and then 2 bone knives were stretched out of his hands, and he rushed forward in a murderous manner. The 3 Ryuya's faces were solemn, but they didn't hesitate to greet them. The next moment, Ryuya, Temari, and Kankuro were fighting together around Junmaro. In the case of 3-1, even though Junmaro's physical skills are strong, the 3 of them are comfortable. But the most important thing is that they can't break those bones, they can't hurt Junmaro at all. In this way, the 3 of them were actually at a disadvantage. Leaf Hurricane Strengthen plus 1000, Increase Strength. Leaf Hurricane Strengthen plus 1001. Leaf Hurricane Strengthen plus 1002. While fighting with Junmaro, he glanced at the system prompt. It has been strengthened more than 1,000 times, and each strengthened item is strength. It should be almost. When it is strengthened to 1,000 times, the strength is once again transformed and greatly increased. Leaf Hurricane. Boom. It was already the 4th time to use Leaf Hurricane. Junmaro was already familiar with it, and he straightened his forearm to block it. Wow. But what Junmaro Manwan didn't expect was that compared to the previous 3 times, the strength this time was more than dozens of times stronger. Under the impact of the huge force, Junmaro moved more than 10 meters under his feet, plowing a deep mark on the ground. What have you done? Standing still again, Junmaro looked at Ryuya solemnly. In these short minutes, how could Ryuya's power have such a terrifying improvement? You know, even if his Earth's curse seal, it only doubles his body. You don't need to know this. Looking at Junmaro, who was beaten back, Ryuya smiled. With his current strength, although he still cannot hurt Junmaro, as long as he can retreat temporarily, that's enough. The skills are still being strengthened. As long as he can limit Junmaro and buy time, Ryuya will soon be able to kick his bones. Willow dance. If you can't figure it out, then fight. Junmaro gave a soft drink and rushed up again. Come on. Ryuya chuckled lightly at the corner of his mouth and greeted him directly. Ryuya is not Junmaro's opponent at all. But he has an enhanced version of the body replacement technique, which can continuously shift and dodge. As for Junmaro's shot at Xiao Li, after Leaf Hurricane strengthened 1,000 times, Ryuya can already kick him back. In this way, the two of you come and go, and still no one can hurt anyone, and the battle is stuck in a stalemate. And this state is exactly what Ryuya wants to see, because he just wants to delay time. Seeing Ryuya entangled Junmaro alone, Temari and Konkuro simply went to rest and fight Junmaro, which was too exhausting chakra. You're still getting stronger. After several fights, Junmaro stopped suddenly and looked at Ryuya with cold eyes. He can feel that Ryuya's Leaf Hurricane is still growing in strength. It is very possible that Ryuya's Leaf Hurricane will become stronger as the battle continues. Although it is impossible to explain the principle, Ryuya's techniques are not all unexplainable. In this way, the longer the time is delayed, the more disadvantaged it is for him. Ah! Thinking of this, Junmaro roared and his body changed again. The skin turned dark red, a thick tail grew behind him, and his body was covered with sharp bone spurs. The curse of the earth, the second form. I was seen through. Seeing Junmaro, who transformed again and finally used all his strength, Ryuya sighed secretly. Although he has tried his best to control the power, the system is too powerful, and the degree of his control can't keep up with the degree of reinforcement, and sometimes he tries his best. Otherwise, he may be able to delay for some time. However, it should be enough for now. Whoosh! The next moment, Ryuya moved again and appeared next to Junmaro instantly, without any hesitation. Leaf Hurricane. Boom! With a loud noise like thunder, he kicked Junmaro's arm hard. This trick of yours is completely useless to me. Junmaro sneered. He did not hesitate to overdraw his body and enter the second form of the curse of the earth. At this time, he is more than twice as strong as before. With the strengthened bones again, he is confident that no one can hurt him at all. Click, click. At this moment, with a burst of cracking sound, the part where Junmaro's arm was kicked by Ryuya, the bones appeared to be cracked. Broken. Seeing this scene, Temari and others next to each other opened their eyes wide and their faces were shocked. They all fought with Junmaro, and deeply realized how hard the bones really are. What's more, at this time, Junmaru's second Dan transformation has already increased his strength several times. Such a powerful Junmaro, such a hard bone, was kicked to pieces by Ryuya. The speed at which he becomes stronger is beyond my understanding. Looking at Ryuya, Gaara's expression is extremely serious. After Chunin's exam, Gaara was rescued back to Tsunade, but there were two figures lingering in his heart. One is Naruto, Naruto's strength and joy, like the sun, illuminating his darkness for more than 10 years, allowing him to pick up love again. And the other one is Ryuya. In the third round of the exam, Ryuya cut off his proud absolute defense. That was the first time he had been injured and bleeds since he grew up. If we say that Naruto makes Gaara love again, and Ryuya is the one who makes him truly understand the fear. After recovering from the injury, Gaara worked desperately to cultivate and become stronger, so that one day, he could overcome that fear. How can that be? But today, when I saw Ryuya's foot, a deep sense of powerlessness surged from the bottom of my heart. Gaara smiled secretly. He was afraid that he would never be able to overcome this fear. At the same time, Ryuya once again let him know what despair is. As that still Leaf Hurricane. Compared to Gaara, Xiaoli doesn't have so many thoughts, only shock in his heart. No one is more familiar with Leaf Hurricane than him. But at this time, Ryuya's Leaf Hurricane was beyond his cognition. Xiaoli couldn't help thinking, when he returned to Konoha, he must ask Mr. Guy carefully. But for some reason, he had doubts about Mr. Guy for the first time. Even Mr. Guy might not be able to explain the so-called Leaf Hurricane trick. Impossible, impossible, it's impossible. At this moment, Junmaro, who was stunned, came back to his senses and screamed hysterically. This bone is not only a defense, but also his pride. Ryuya's kick just now, along with his pride, was also broken. Dance of Early Fern. Junmaro, who was in madness, turned to Ryuya suddenly, his eyes were extremely cold, and then he shouted. Hyo no Mai, Junmaro's strongest move. Laugh. Chi-chi. Laugh. In the next moment, a large number of bones multiplied from Junmaro's feet, extended quickly to the ground, and then pierced the ground and pierced the sky, like a spear, instantly turning into a white bone within a radius of 200 to 300 meters. Forest. This move not only covers a wide range, but also launches extremely quickly. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Fortunately, through the rest just now, Gaara recovered some chakra, condensed the sand, lifted him, Xiaoli, Shikamaru and others into the air, and escaped this indiscriminate attack in time. Tread, and Ryuya, who knows Junmaro's skills well, is already prepared. At the moment Junmaro's shoe was activated, he jumped into the air to escape. At this time, he fell and stood firmly on a bone spear. Dead. At the moment when Ryuya fell, Junmaro suddenly appeared with a bone spear next to him. A large number of bones in his arm condensed into a thick spiral, the bone spear known as the strongest spear, and slammed into Ryuya fiercely. As the best heir to the bones, Junmaro can even completely attach his body to the outstretched bones. Launching the Dance of Sawara is not just to attack, but to create a favorable battlefield that appears at any time. Whoosh. But unfortunately, Ryuya was prepared long ago, and the body replacement technique moved to avoid it again. Dead. Die. 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 The next moment, I saw Junmaro following Ryuya's figure, appearing constantly and roaring hysterically. Only by killing Ryuya can he regain his pride. But unfortunately, Ryuya's body replacement technique is too fast. Even in the bone forest of Junmaro's home stadium, he can't catch Ryuya at all. That's it. Seeing Junmaro, who was completely mad, Ryuya dodged and smiled secretly at the corner of his mouth. With the scope of his body replacement technique, it can actually be transferred out of the bone forest in an instant. Even if it was Junmaro, it would not be so easy to create such a bone forest. But Ryuya didn't do this, instead dodged between the bone forest. The reason why he did this is naturally procrastinating. Just give him some more time, it's more than just kicking and cracking. It has to be said that Junmaro, who has fallen into madness, has lost the ability to think and judge, and has not seen even such a simple intention. But having said that, all of Junmaro's whole cards have been opened. Even if he sees through, what can he do to escape? The pride of Junmaro, as Orochimaru's first container, did not allow him to escape. In this way, in the pursuit of Bone Forest, time passed by. Leaf Hurricane. Time was almost up, Ryuya shouted and finally shot again. Boom. With a muffled noise, this foot hit Junmaro. Click. And then, there was another harsh sound. Junmaro clinging to the bone forest, as a connected ossified waist, snapped. With the mighty power of thunder, Ryuya kicked Junmaro directly with this kick. Whoosh. The next moment, before Junmaro landed, Ryuya flashed to his side again. Leaf Hurricane. Boom. Puff. With a muffled sound, the bones covering his body shattered instantly. At the same time, Junmaro spouted out a big mouthful of blood. Whoosh. 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 Leaf Hurricane. Leaf Hurricane. Leaf Hurricane. Next, Ryuya kept shifting and flashing, and kept kicking at Junmaro. At this time, Junmaro, like a sandbag, was kicked by Ryuya again and again in midair. In the heavy blows, not to mention the bones on the surface of the body, even the bones of the whole body have been kicked into pieces by Ryuya. Who is the monster? Seeing Ryuya who kept hitting Junmaro in midair, Shikamaru couldn't help but lose consciousness. This guy is more terrifying than a monster. Boom. In a blink of an eye, Ryuya was afraid of kicking hundreds of feet, and finally with a loud noise, Junmaro was smashed to the ground by him. Boom. Then there was another loud noise, and under the huge wind pressure, the bone forest below was also collapsed. Ended. Looking at it now, Junmaro, who was lying in a pit of tens of meters in diameter, had completely lost his breath. Ryuya's attack was indeed fierce, but Junmaro didn't die under Leaf Hurricane, but died because of the Curse Seal 2 state exceeding the physical load and suffering from backlash. I have to say that Orochimaru deserves to be the poison of pornography, gambling, and his stuff is really harmful. At the same time that Junmaro died, Naruto and Sasuke's first battle of End Valley also came to an end. The result was the same as in the original book. Naruto was defeated and fainted. Sasuke, who was willing to do everything in order to become stronger, could not bear the heart to kill Naruto and completely cut off the bond. After that, with the arrival of Kakashi who completed the mission, and the ninja of the medical class, the mission of retaking Sasuke also officially ended. Although the 5 Odonin people were killed, Sasuke could not be retaken in the end, and the mission was a failure. But fortunately, all the members who participated in the pursuit and reinforcements were injured to varying degrees, but no one died. Next time, I will complete the task successfully. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Shikamaru finally couldn't help crying after learning that his friends had survived, determined to become a truly outstanding ninja. The matter came to an end, and the biggest hero of the battle, Ryuya, who almost defeated Junmaro by one person, quietly left. After returning home, I took a hot bath, plunged into the bed, and fell asleep. He had just finished a B-level task, and immediately followed this task. He was really tired. This enhancement is over. It wasn't until the next afternoon, when the system prompt sounded, that Ryuya woke up. Finished. Ryuya yawned, sat up from the bed, and checked the system in detail. In the process of strengthening yesterday, Leaf Hurricane's power was enough to kick Junmaro's bones. Now after a whole day, 86,400 times of strengthening, I don't know how strong it will be again. This is. When seeing the effect of the enhanced Leaf Hurricane clearly, Ryuya's eyes widened and his face was filled with confusion. Other ninjutsu, even the lowest level 1,000 Years of Death, after being strengthened, also derives various abilities. Such as raids, such as hits, such as various negative effects. But as AC level ninjutsu Leaf Hurricane, there is only one enhanced effect, and that is power. 10,000 tons. And what I got in the end was an extremely terrifying result. Leaf Hurricane strengthened plus 86,400, power 10,000 tons. This. Ryuya, who had recovered, still had some confusion in his thinking. What is the concept of 10,000 tons, that is, 10 million kilograms? What is the effect of using Leaf Hurricane to carry 10 million kilograms of weight? Ryuya didn't know, and didn't dare to try it easily. He was afraid that if he didn't pay attention, his house would be gone. Inexplicably, Ryuya couldn't help but think, compared with Gaia Emperor's 8-gate fully open, the strongest physical technique, Night Guy, which one is stronger than the 10,000 tornado? Unfortunately, there is no comparison, it is destined to be a pending case. However, one thing is certain, this move will be Ryuya's current strongest attack without considering drawing the sword and accumulating power. The use of power. If you just simply increase your strength, it can only be regarded as inferior. The most important thing is to control your strength. While possessing 10,000 tons of power, Ryuya can fully control this power, such as focusing the power to release it to achieve the blasting effect. It can also kick people into the air with one kick without hurting them. It has to be said that it is indeed a system product, and it is a skill that has been strengthened 86,400 times. Monomer. Of course, there is no omnipotent ninjutsu, because it only strengthens the strength and does not strengthen the damage range, so the attack radius has not changed, and it is still only a single damage skill. Basic level. At the same time, Ryuya couldn't help being inspired. As AC level ninjutsu, compared to those E level ninjutsu, although it is also 86,400 times strengthening, because the starting point is much higher, the final result, in addition to being more powerful, does not have so many limitations. Advanced skills. Ryuya couldn't help thinking about whether his future training should be placed on advanced skills. But with his aptitude, 2 months is not enough to learn an advanced skill. In this way, it will cause a kind of embarrassment, that is, the strengthening time is up, but Ryuya has no skills to strengthen. But in order to ensure that there are skills enhancement, and blindly practice low-level skills, I am afraid that you will never learn high-level skills. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Choose. Ryuya lay down on the bed again, hesitating for a while as to how to choose. Forget it. Thinking of the brain pain, Ryuya turned over and simply continued to sleep. Sasuke's departure is undoubtedly a great blow to some people, such as small Sakura, such as Naruto and Kakashi. But at the same time, it is also an incentive to motivate them to become stronger. And Konoha's other genin also deeply felt the sense of powerlessness in this incident, and began to practice harder. Fire style. Great fireball technique. I have been busy for a long time, there are not so many tasks, and Ryuya's time has been looser. When he is not on a mission, he spends almost all of his time practicing. And his current cultivation focus is the great fireball technique. The 10,000-ton cyclone made Ryuya understand that even with the same 86,400 enhancements, advanced ninjutsu is more valuable. Ryuya. Early this morning, Ryuya practiced as hard as ever, and with a shout, Naruto ran over. I'm here to say goodbye to you. Bid farewell. Okay. Naruto nodded and said seriously. I'm going to practice with Pervy Sage. Such. Looking at Jiraiya on the side of the road not far away, Ryuya understood. In the original plot, after Sasuke defected, Naruto blamed himself for failing to bring his friends back, but felt deeply that he was not strong enough. So immediately after he recovered from his injury, he left the village with Jiraiya and embarked on a journey of cultivation. And this trip is 2 years. 2 years later, Naruto returned to Konoha again, already a strong and mature ninja. Await your return. Thinking of this, Ryuya smiled and stretched out his palm. Snapped. There was a crisp high five, and Naruto was in high spirits. When I come back, I will definitely surpass you. That's not necessarily. Most definitely, Naruto yelled, smiled and waved goodbye to Ryuya, then followed Jiraiya and left Konoha. It's time. Seeing Naruto on the journey, Ryuya took a deep breath and walked towards Third Hokage's residence. No amount of low-level ninjutsu practice can defeat Uchiha Madara or Otsutsuki Kagaya. Ryuya has made a decision and took time to practice a high-level ninjutsu with all his strength. Just like Naruto's Rasengan, became his real powerful weapon. As for which ninjutsu practice, Ryuya has already thought about it. When Naruto stole the Book of Seal, Ryuya wrote 2 ninjutsu from above, one of which was just right. 2 years later, Takagi Ryuya. Level. Chunin. Organs. Ears, brain, heart. Skills. 1000 years of death strengthen plus 86,400 E-level physical surgery. Body replacement technique strengthen plus 86,400 E-level ninjutsu. Draw a sword and strengthen plus 86,400 E-level physical surgery. Toad oil bomb strengthen plus 86,400 C-level ninjutsu. Leaf hurricane strengthen plus 86,400 C-level ninjutsu. Clone technique strengthen plus 86,400 E-level ninjutsu. Seal of the Four Elephants enhancement plus 86,400 S-level ninjutsu. 2 years ago, Ryuya approached Sarutobi Hiruzen and put forward the idea of practicing a high-level ninjutsu with all his strength, which was endorsed by Hiruzen. After Tsunade came to power, Hiruzen has retreated to the second line. As a teacher, he said that he would do his best to help Ryuya in his practice. The ninjutsu that Ryuya wants to practice is called the Seal of the Four Elephants. As a branch of ninjutsu, seal art is extremely complex and difficult to practice while forming its own system. What's more, the Seal of the Four Elephants is still S-level. Surprised by Ryuya's determination, Hiruzen couldn't help wondering, Ryuya is a Chunin, where did he get the S-level ninjutsu? There is no need to hide it, Ryuya admitted that he had memorized 2 ninjutsu from the Book of Seals. Hiruzen really smiled so much and didn't pursue it. Relying on the relationship between the elder brother and sister, Tsunade temporarily cancelled all tasks of Ryuya. Then, under Hiruzen's guidance, Ryuya began to practice the four-elephant seal with all his strength. After 60 days, get another chance to strengthen. Every 6 times it contains a golden boost, and only one Ryuya with clone technique skills is left. he chooses the golden boost to strengthen his brain. The brain is responsible for processing information and storing memories. Although it is only an organ, it is extremely complex. After 86,400 times of strengthening, all aspects of the brain's functions have been increased terribly. But how strong it is, Ryuya doesn't know. Because of the function of the brain, it is impossible to use some clear numerical values to show it. It can only be exemplified. For example, if 178,209 is multiplied by 837, Ryuya can get in an instant. In fact, let alone simple addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, Ryuya has no problem even with all kinds of complicated and huge calculations, it just takes a little time. For another example, a few rice balls were placed on the table one morning a few months ago, and Ryuya can remember them clearly, just like information stored on a computer hard drive. As for the ability of thinking analysis, it has also improved, but it is not so intuitive. In addition, in the process of strengthening the brain, in addition to the enhancement of its basic functions, it also derives an ability, which Ryuya calls the illusory ego. That is to say, in any illusion, Ryuya can turn the object away, dominate the illusion, and even kill the caster. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Great. After acquiring this ability, Ryuya couldn't help but feel excited. With his current skill configuration, the most feared is illusion. This is why, when Konan entered the village and mistakenly thought it was Itachi, he was so nervous. But now, with this ability, illusion will no longer be his culprit. On the contrary, all those who dare to use illusions in front of him will suffer their own consequences. According to the enhanced ability of the brain, Ryuya named it Super Brain. After strengthening the brain, another 60 days passed, and Ryuya once again got an unlimited enhancement opportunity. The golden enhancement has been used, and he has no choice but to strengthen the clone technique. As an E-level clone technique, it is not a shadow clone. Even after 86,400 times of strengthening, it still cannot become an entity. But its realism has reached its extreme. Even Byakugan of Hyuga's family can see the flow of chakra, but can't break Ryuya's clone. Secondly, the number of clones has increased geometrically, which surpasses multiple shadow clone techniques. The most important thing is that all the experiences of the clone will be fed back to the ontology after the clone disappears. At this point, it is almost the same as shadow clone. And in this way, Ryuya can imitate Naruto and split up a large number of clones to help him practice the seal of the four elephants together. At the same time, the cultivation speed was greatly increased, and Ryuya couldn't help but feel annoyed. Knowing this long ago, he strengthened the clone technique from the beginning. Of course, a large number of clones practiced together, in addition to experience feedback, there is also fatigue, and hundreds of times of fatigue come together. If it weren't for the strong support of a thought, Ryuya would never continue to practice with clone technique. Success. With tenacious willpower, as well as the correction of the meridians by the secret medicine of Sarutobi, the S-level seal of the four signs, even some geniuses, it takes several years to train, Ryuya only took less than 2 years. In addition, since all the time is spent on cultivating the seal of the four elephants, Ryuya has no other skills. Whenever it is time to strengthen, you can only give up. After giving up 4 times in this manner, Ryuya finally got another chance to strengthen gold. And this time, he chose the heart. First of all, as the foundation of vitality, after 86,400 times of strengthening, the vitality of the heart is almost infinitely improved. Even if it is pierced, even if it is burned clean, as long as there is one cell in the blood, it can be remodeled and regenerated. In this way, for Ryuya, the heart is no longer a fatal door. Secondly, the blood supply capacity is greatly improved. For example, if it used to be a small motor, it is now a large nuclear power plant. With the increase in blood supply, Ryuya's overall physical functions have been greatly improved accordingly. The most important thing is that the manufacture of chakra comes from body cells and soul spirit. Now that the blood supply capacity of the heart has increased, the amount of chakra derived from cells has directly increased. According to third generation, the amount of chakra in Ryuya's body has reached an extremely terrifying level, comparable to a tail beast. Chakra is large, that is to say, Ryuya will release ninjutsu in the future, and there is no need to worry about mana consumption anymore. Based on this characteristic, Ryuya named it the Tailed Beast Heart. After the gold enhancement was used up this time, 3 consecutive times, Ryuya had to give up the enhancement opportunity because he had no skills. Until the 4th time, Ryuya had practiced the Seal of the 4 Elephants. The Seal of the 4 Elephants uses the theory of the 4 Elephants cycle to seal the forbidden techniques of powerful enemies and even demons. At the same time, the Seal of the 4 Elephants is also the basis of many sealing techniques, such as the 8-sign seal, the Seal of the 4 Elephants, the Seal of the Ghouls, and so on. Seal everything. After the system was strengthened 86,400 times, the Seal of the 4 Elephants became stronger. Whether it is a tangible person or thing, or an invisible flame, chakra, or even air, it can be sealed. Moreover, the seal has an absolute attribute, which cannot be destroyed by any external force. In addition, the methods of surgery are also more varied. The first is to perform the operation by hand. Ryuya's hands represent yin and yang derive the 4 signs. The second is to use the scroll to seal. Write the seal technique on the scroll in advance, shake the scroll directly when using it, and the things that are wrapped in the scroll can be sealed. Finally, there is the technique seal, which does not stick to the scroll, and seals the technique anywhere. This kind of advantage is that there is no limit to the size of the space. As long as the surgical style is large enough to cover the entire world, then the entire world can be sealed. But the disadvantage is that the larger the seal, the more chakra and the more time it takes to activate. If you really want to seal the world, in addition to covering the world such a large technique, it will probably take Ryuya's life to activate this seal. But in any case, as an S-level ninjutsu, strengthening the Seal of the 4 Elephants 86,400 times is simply terrifying. Otsutsuki. With this technique, Ryuya is confident that even if the 4th ninja war breaks out, even if he faces the ancestor of chakra, Otsutsuki Kagaya, he can still fight one. Senior sister and mother-in-law, how long has it been, you still hold grudges? Don't call me mother-in-law. Alright. In Naruto's office, Ryuya touched his forehead, and his tears almost fell. It's so comfortable. In contrast, it's been a long time since I ravaged Ryuya so happily. Tsunade is soothing and more comfortable than a hot spring. Move your shoulders, and then said with a smile. To call you today is something else. What? Listen to teacher Sarutobi, your training has been completed. Okay, then don't hurry up to contribute to the village. Tsunade slapped the desk, and the roar almost shattered the glass of the office. Do you know how long it has been since you had a mission? Are you my dear senior sister or Huang Shiren? What Huang Shiren? An exploiter hated by civilians. Ah, my dear little brother, how can you say that to your dear sister? Tsunade narrowed his eyes and said with a smile. After all, you haven't had a task for almost 2 years, so this time, a very simple task has been arranged for you. Okay, Ryuya nodded. He also wanted to check the results of his training, and then he asked. What level? There is no level. Tsunade smiled insidiously, and then told Ryuya about the details of the mission. It has been 2 years since the last Chunin exam. In these 2 years, the village has been recuperated. So Tsunade decided to reconvene the Chunin exam this year. It was originally a joint examination of the 5 major countries, but unfortunately, Iwagakure, Leian Village, and Kurigakure refused to take the exam for various reasons. So in the end, only Konoha, San Shinobi, and other small villages participated. The test is divided into 2 sessions. The first test will be held in Konoha. The second trial of survival was held in San Shinobi because of the strong request of the new fungi in Gaara. The task given to Ryuya this time is to lead the Konoha candidates in San Shinobi with the other 2 Chunin. Really an easy task. After listening, Ryuya couldn't help sighing. Yeah, I can go to Tsunade to stroll around. What kind of mission is this? It's obviously a public travel. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Tsunade nodded vigorously and looked at Ryuya with a smile on his face. Ryuya kept her lips secretly. This old woman is very bad, I believe you a ghost. Gaara had just taken over as Fungying, his position was already unstable, and because of his identity as Jinchuriki, many opposition forces lurked below. Tsunade at this time can be described as turbulent undercurrents. Moreover, Gaara insists on using Tsunade as the main arena. In fact, by taking advantage of this opportunity to make his first public appearance as Funying, he wants to pick out the opponents below. Therefore, Sand Shinobi during the Chunin exam is likely to break out of a major rebellion. It is simply dangerous. In addition to Ryuya, there are only 2 other Chunin leading the team. In this case, a group of genin must be protected. The difficulty of this task is no less than that of grade A. Can you not go? No, Tsunade stared, then added. And you must leave immediately, because the others have already set off. Quote. Ryuya's face was speechless, without any breathless urges. Who makes Hokage a man? A man can bend and stretch. Immediately after leaving the Hokage office, Ryuya packed up and left immediately. In this Chunin exam, the first written exam was at Konoha. The chief examiner is Shikamaru, who has been promoted to Chunin, and now the examination is over. But before the candidates were happy, a new test came again. Driven by Neji, there were too many passers in the first game, so before the start of the second game, another batch of people had to be eliminated. First of all, because it is a team test, there is no guarantee of a complete team of 3 people, so they are eliminated on the spot. Then, from Konoha to Sand Shinobi, in the order of arrival, the last 30 people were eliminated, and private fights were not allowed on the way. How did you get there? When Ryuya arrived at the exam venue, those genins had already set off. Only Shikamaru and Temari, who are the examiners, looked at Ryuya, who was late. Shikamaru said with a smile. However, with your foot strength, you should be able to reach Sand Shinobi in front of them. Is it their exam, or me? Ryuya sighed helplessly, then asked. Who are the other 2 leading Chunin? Gangzati, Shenyu Izumo. They. Ryuya nodded. Although it was just Chunin, they were indeed very reliable, 2 of them who were in charge of guarding Konoha portal. As for why, it is not the 3 Jonins of Guy, Asuma, and Red in the original book, but the 3 of them, Chunin, leading the team. Ryuya is also too lazy to think. After all, after so long, many things have already deviated from the original plot. The little ghosts had already set off, and Ryuya couldn't delay any longer, and immediately caught up. But speaking of it, a lot of genin who took this exam were from the same period as Ryuya, and there was even the 3rd class 1 year higher than him. It seems inappropriate to call them a little ghost. This guy is so handsome. Seeing Ryuya running away from the back, Shikamaru smiled and said. After 2 years, the little devil who just graduated from the ninja school is now a vigorous teenager of 15 or 16 years old. What did he carry on his back? In contrast, Temari cares more about the huge scroll behind Ryuya. Unlike the summoning contract scroll, in the past 2 years, he has practiced space ninjutsu similar to Tenten, summoning ninjutsu to fight. What kind of surprises will you bring us? Thinking of this, Temari couldn't help but smile, and couldn't help but look forward to Ryuya's next performance. What surprise? Shikamaru asked next to him, and then said with a smile without waiting for Temari to answer. Before I go back to Sand Shinobi, do you want to try Konoha's tea? Okay, I'll treat you. How can you make a woman spend money, and you are a guest after all? Do you look down on women? Have you forgotten that you chased Otoninu, but this woman saved your life? Alright, catch up. When Shikamaru and Temari were enjoying the couple's package, Ryuya had caught up with the candidates, but did not directly pass, but slowed down, focused, and covered everyone with radar ears. The candidates this time mainly came from the 2 large villages of Sand Shinobi and Konoha, but many other small ninja villages were invited or actively asked to participate. Ryuya is especially concerned about several of these villages, such as Takanin Village and Rain Shinobi Village. 3 days later, after a rush all the way, the candidates arrived at Sand Shinobi. The last 30 people were eliminated directly according to the rules of the examination. In the evening, the restaurant has already prepared dinner, which is considered to have been washed away. Ninjas from different villages gathered together, and as candidates, they were already opponents, and the atmosphere was tense. At this moment, the restaurant's door was suddenly opened, and Ryuya of Sand Shinobi walked in. I'm starving to death. Unexpectedly, for 3 days on the road, the dry food that I brought with me was gone, and I haven't eaten anything for the day today. Looking at the hearty meal, Ryuya smiled and took a meal and found a place to sit down. Who is he? Konoha shinobi. Seeing Ryuya's forehead protector, everyone couldn't help but wonder for a while. Where did this Konoha shinobi come from? Why didn't I see him in the previous exam? Could Chunin also jump in the line? Ryuya. At this time, Neji and the Konoha shinobi, seeing that it was Ryuya, couldn't help being surprised, and then came over. Why you? Why can't it be me? Ryuya smiled and greeted everyone. In addition to Neji from the 3rd class, Hinata from the 8th class, Ino, Choji from the 10th class and Sakura from the 7th class also came as a temporary team. It's a pity that I didn't see Chihisa and Coriander. I don't know if it was because Ryuya was missing and I couldn't form a team, or I was eliminated in the first round of exams. You and Shikamaru are already Chunin, why are you still here? It seemed that it had been a long time since I saw Ryuya. After a while of joy, Ino asked. Chunin. The ninjas in other villages were startled. This kid who looked about the same age as them was already Chunin. Don't you guys know? Ryuya grabbed a mouthful of the meal, then said with a smile after swallowing it. I'm one of the leaders sent by the village. By the way, how about Ziti and Izumo, haven't they come to eat? Leader. The other village ninjas were surprised again. This kid was not only Chunin, but also Konoha's leader. Hey, the team leader actually arrived later than us. It seems that Konoha is really not as good as before. This kind of strength can also be a Chunin. If he is taking this exam, then he has been eliminated. Immediately afterwards, other ninjas talked, and their tone was full of disdain. What are you saying? Hearing this, Ino was furious and yelled at the others. You frogs at the bottom of the well, haven't you even heard of the name, stand-in Ryuya? Substitute Ryuya. It turns out that I found a substitute. No wonder he passed the exam and became Chunin. Haha, I don't know who made a joke, and then it caused a roar of laughter. Unforgivable. They openly laughed at Konoha's hero. Not only Ino, but even Neji, who was calm, couldn't suppress his anger. Let you taste the power of Konoha shinobi. At this time, with a loud shout, Ya had already rushed up, punching the man who had just teased him into the air. Who is afraid of whom? Konoha fired the first shot. The others couldn't wait long ago and rushed up immediately. Upon seeing this, Neji and the others, who were just a step behind the tooth, should he hesitate. Immediately afterwards, the originally good dinner party instantly became a scuffle. Quote. Seeing this scene, Ryuya blinked. In the original book, they did fight at the dinner party. After all, putting them together was like 2 male lions in a cage. It would be strange not to fight. But Ryuya never expected that this fight was because of him. Forget it. Let's fight. He doesn't bother to continue eating. On the way, he was tired enough to get information. Boom. Seeing that the fighting is getting more and more fierce, and it is about to be upgraded to the stage of ninjutsu, suddenly a loud noise comes, and everyone can't help but be stunned. It is like a wall has been broken. Boom. Immediately afterwards, there was another muffled sound. A young girl with green hair broke through the glass from the outside and jumped in directly, shouting cheerfully after the appearance. The party has started. Everyone, can you make 100 friends? Who are you? I'm Fu from Takanin village. I took the Chunin exam this time to make 100 friends. Everyone, what do you do after dinner? Play poker. Play double six. Snatch a chair game. Or take a bath together. Quote. What do you want to do? Looking at the naturally nervous Fu, the people who were still angry just now, it was like taking a cold bath, feeling dull for a moment, and then left the restaurant one after another. Hey, wait a minute. Only Fu stood there with a blank face. Ryuya ate the meal quickly, followed the crowd to leave, glanced at Wang Fu in the cold spot, and couldn't help but smile. As Seven Tails Jinchuriki, I really have a personality. According to tracking and listening along the way, the intelligence is basically the same as the original plot. In this test, apart from Tsunade who practiced the 7-day breathing method, Ziluo who did not lose his physical skills to Shaoli, and the 3 genin named as the test in Rain Shinobi Village, who were actually listening to the information, only Seven Tails Jinchuriki Fu from Takanin Village needs extra attention. The information has been almost collected. Ryuya is also a little tired, and simply goes back to rest. Boom, boom. Ryuya was about to lie down when he heard a loud noise outside. It should be Choji and the others. They went outside to find food, but they encountered a desert specialty, a huge Sasori like a truck. However, according to the original plot, Fu should be able to rescue them without having to worry about Ryuya, and then lie down and prepare to sleep. Boom, boom, let's go and see. But it lasted for a while, and the voice didn't stop. Ryuya was still a little worried and turned over and got up from the bed. Who is she? Such a monster was easily subdued by her. But there seems to be something wrong with my brain. When Ryuya arrived, as expected, as in the original, Fu had already fruited Sasori and saved Choji and the others. But looking at the fuss dancing around the giant Sasori's corpse, everyone around the audience was speechless. He came. The Chunin of Konoha. It's the leader, it's so slow. You don't understand this, it's right to come slowly. It makes sense. If he comes to in time, it would be too embarrassing for him with his ability. It's no wonder that being a Chunin is smarter than us. At this time, when I saw Ryuya, who was overdue, and the ninjas from other villages, there was another cynicism. For Ryuya, who is the same age but is already Chunin and even the leader, many people are full of jealousy. In order to balance my poor self-esteem, this subjectively believes that Ryuya, Chunin, is actually a name. Ryuya didn't say anything about this. Now that the problem has been solved, he went back to sleep. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.